All right. Good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I think everything is working. Hi. Is this thing on? It's been a little while. Good to be back. And we got a lot to talk about on a Monday edition of the program. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. We got a lot we're going to do. Coming up a little bit later on this hour, our buddy Ben McDonald will join us. We'll discuss the Orioles at the All-Star break. Later on this morning, Jeremy Conn will join us, as he does every Monday. We'll continue to talk a little Athletes Unlimited lacrosse. Sydni Black, former Loyola star, is going to check in with us before that season gets underway this week out in Sparks at USA Lacrosse headquarters. Mike Petriello is going to be part of ESPN 2's alternate broadcast of the Home Run Derby with our buddy Kevin Brown, by the way. That'll be tonight. Of course, there'll be the traditional broadcast. I know Carl Ravitch is doing that with Todd Frazier and somebody, Eduardo, I think. Eduardo. And then there'll be the alternate broadcast on ESPN 2. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Orioles in general with Mike Petriello. And then we're going to wrap today's show by catching up with our friend Vonta Leach. And I'm going to start there because I want to talk about Jacoby. Yeah, I'll tell you all about my time, and we got a lot of Orioles to discuss. There's a lot that we need to do. But I'm going to write about Jacoby today at PressBoxOnline.com. And it'll be lengthy and not even as lengthy as I would have liked it to have been. I think I told myself I had to cut it about 1,300 words. I couldn't continue to expect that people were going to keep reading for... I think a lot of you guys that have been with me for a long time know the affinity that I have for Jacoby Jones. And it's kind of wild, right? Like I talk about it a lot. I did a thing with the Junkies a couple years ago where they were like asking the colleges that the Super Bowl 47 Ravens played at. And like, who would remember that Jacoby Jones played at Lane College? Who would remember that Kerry Williams played at Washburn College? And I was like, look, man, those were the teams that I was around the most. Before I became a dad and before I was doing, play-by-play work, I was around those teams constantly. Some of those guys I was around during my years on the beat, where I was around those guys every day. And then after I left the beat, I was doing those players shows and doing more events, and I was still going out to the facility regularly and just getting to know these guys. And they were all kind of regulars on my show. It was sort of a different era of sports radio where it was pre the boom of social media. Social media existed, but it was still thought of that the best way to get your message across was to go on the radio, go to TV appearance, things like that. So the Ravens acquire Jacoby Jones. I think we all remember the story. And I think it's important that we continue to tell the story. Jacoby Jones has a disastrous day in the playoffs. Houston Texans come to Baltimore in the divisional round after the 2011 season. Jacoby Jones in the first quarter of that game, Texans leading 3-0, get a quick stop. They've got some momentum. The Ravens have to punt from deep in their own territory. Sam Cook bombs one down, and Jacoby Jones makes the decision to try to field it, I believe off a bounce, and can't hold on to it. Kerry Williams is right there to pop him. Jimmy Smith recovers it inside the 5-yard line. The Ravens score a touchdown. They never lose the lead the rest of the day. And Jacoby Jones, who had just never really kind of separated himself in Houston, he had never really become a reliable anything, is blamed. It gets toxic. Jacoby doesn't blame himself for the loss. We were, in fact, just talking about it with Jacoby. Remember, we brought him on before the Ravens played the Texans in this year's playoffs, kind of fuel up some Texans hate. But in the moment, Jacoby was very disappointed in himself. His hands had been an issue that had kind of defined his early NFL years, that he just wasn't reliable enough at catching the football. Regularly at that point, when a player would sign in Baltimore, we would get him on the air pretty quickly. And we probably had Jacoby on the day he signed, the day after he signed, something like that. And I remember Jacoby, I had to talk about it. I was like, look, man, it's funny because I remember that conversation probably was a little bit more skeptical than any conversation I clearly ever had with Jacoby Jones, because we were all like, okay, they're signing this guy with like hands problems. Remember, there was still a little bit of a question about Torrey Smith's hands at that point. We were like, really going to add another guy that's not the most reliable at catching the football into this group when your other options are like Tandon Doss? They, of course, had just run off Lee Evans because of what had happened a week after Jacoby Jones' eventful day in Baltimore. So I said, man, what's the story with the hands? Like, how are you going to upgrade that? And he wasn't angry at me. He in fact, as I remember it clearly, he walked outside and started putting footballs in the jugs machine and let us hear on the radio what he was doing with the jugs machine. And he was telling me, he's like, look, man, I've been working every day. Got a jugs machine, have been going there every moment that I possibly can, hours a day on the jugs machine to try to fix this. Of course, we all know what happened. Jacoby Jones turned out to be the perfect fit. He turned out to be, in many ways, the piece that was missing. What a thought. Having 3 wide receivers that were all helpful and competent on the football team at the same time. That's something we did frequently in Baltimore. But that year, it happened. What we didn't know in that moment was that not only was Jacoby Jones going to prove to be a perfect football fit, he was going to prove to be the fit in our city, in our community. Jacoby and I texted regularly throughout the course of that season. He was great. Like, he was really great. Not only was he willing to come on the show all the time, but I could just text him, get his thoughts about something. Remember, he brought the Choppa City Juke. Believe it or not, I was not I didn't know a lot about it. So I texted him about it, and he was like, you want to meet me up, and I'll show you how to do it. That was Jacoby. Would ask him to do an event. It was a quick yes. We all know what happened that season. I'll get back to that in a second. But then, of course, we also know that Jacoby Jones became like an international celebrity for a bit. Because not only was he a Super Bowl hero, not only did he make the biggest play of the season, not only was his personality wildly evident, then he goes on Dancing with the Stars at a time where Dancing with the Stars was still like a very significant television show that drew monster ratings, and Jacoby Jones became a celebrity. The Ravens did a viewing party for their Super Bowl DVD, and like Zendaya was coming to hang out. Because Jacoby Jones became a star. And yet that following season, you would ask Jacoby Jones, hey, man, would you come on the show? Hey, man, would you come out and do an appearance with us? Hey, man. The answer remained the exact same in the height of his celebrity. I've told enough people privately about it. We did an event with Jacoby in Bel Air at a Buffalo Wild Wings. And it was Jameel McClain's radio show. And we decided that we were going to make it a coat drive when Jacoby told us he would come out. By the way, to Bel Air. Not to Pikesville, not somewhere nearby. To Bel Air. Abingdon, technically. And Jacoby created a mob scene. I mean, a mob scene. When people in Hartford County found out that like Jacoby Jones was taking pictures and signing autographs if you donated coats, they were literally walking to the door and asking if they could just take the coat off of their back. He stayed for hours. We had to physically remove him from the establishment that night because it was a like security issue at some point. He never changed. And it wasn't just with events with me, people. It was, he would still just go out to bars, to restaurants. He was truly the man of the people. And you would, someone I know, and I apologize, it might have been my friend Lindsay OK, said, like, you know how you talk about someone who lights up the room? This was the man who, yes. Every time he walked in, a viable celebrity was walking in, and yet he never acted like it for a second. And it continued when he left Baltimore, and then he came back. He loved this place so much, he came back. He wanted this to be home. Took jobs at Calvert Hall and Morgan State. Jacoby was truly special. And as I've stated a few times, Jacoby and I, we would fight sometimes. Like, a question I would ask, something I'd bring up. Like, I can hear him saying, nope, in my head. Like, some of the ways that he would respond to me about things. Famously, one year at the Super Bowl, I was sitting down with Chris Agbanaya, of all people. I don't even know why. I think he had a big game against the Ravens that year. Somebody I knew was in PR was like, hey, man, would you have Chris Agbanaya on your show? I'm like, I guess. I think it was early in the week when there weren't as many good guests to have. So Chris Agbanaya was sitting down with me. And Jacoby, who was teammates with Chris Agbanaya in Houston, saw that. And Jacoby, who had been doing like the media blitz that year, this is the year after the Ravens won the Super Bowl, he was, and again, he was a celebrity at this point. He was doing a media blitz. Jacoby sees Chris Agbanaya sitting at my table and comes darting over, like races over, grabs a headset, sits down. And I don't even remember what it was. But I brought something up, and he literally stood up, took the headset off, slammed it down, stormed away. What the hell? Chris Agbanaya looks at me like, dude, what? I saw him later in the week. I'm like, hey, bro, what was that? And he's like, oh, man, we're good. I just wasn't feeling it. I'm like, all right, dude. All good. As you know, we stayed in touch over the years, and Jacoby was a regular. I would look for any excuse possible to put Jacoby Jones on this show. Any excuse. He would take a job somewhere, Calvert Hall, Morgan State, Alabama State, whatever. He was vaguely in the news. Let's bring Jacoby on. Again, the thinnest of premises. The Ravens are playing the Texans in the playoffs. Well, this man played for both of those teams. Put him on the show. That was how much I liked Jacoby. And how much Jacoby liked coming on the show. In fact, it was funny because Rita would always be like, why doesn't he come on our show? And I'd have to tell her, Jacoby would purposely tell me, I don't want to come on radio shows anymore. I just want to come on your show. And I'd be like, why? And he'd say, because I like to cuss. And if you heard him, there were a few times over the years where it was very not safe for work. But Jacoby, as much of an entertainer as he was, and he was a damn entertainer, he could also stir your soul. He had a passion for life, for football, and for helping people that was overwhelming. The last time I saw Jacoby was at the Ed Block Courage Awards this year. I don't know why he was involved. I I guess he was probably just in town, and NFL alumni is involved with the Ed Block Courage Awards, and so they asked him to be involved. And I didn't go to the actual event, but I went. They did a breakfast the next morning at the Renaissance, and I went down, and I went to this breakfast, and I hadn't seen Jacoby in a while, and I didn't even see him, frankly, during the breakfast. Somebody told me he was there, and I was like, oh, man, I love Jacoby. Like, I'll let me go talk to him, but I didn't see him during the breakfast. And as I told Rita, and we had a 12 o'clock radio show to do that day, and I think it was like a 10:45 or so, and I said, all right, I got to duck out. I'll get over to the radio station and start planning out the show. And as I'm walking downstairs through the lobby, wouldn't you know it, I get stopped, and it's Jacoby. And I'm like, hey, man, it's really good to see you. We gave him a hug. And then I said, dude, I got to go. I got to go get ready for the radio show. And he wasn't having it. He wasn't having it. No, you don't. You need to come sit with me. We need to talk. We don't get to talk much. We don't get to see each other. Come sit with me. All right. Yeah, you're right, man. So we went over to kind of the corner of this lobby area where there's a couch, and we just sit down and we just start talking about life, about, men stuff, about me being a dad, about him, where life has taken him. And we start opening up a little bit and being vulnerable. And I did. I said, dude, I know how much you make for appearances. I know that these jobs that you keep taking. Remember, you're just taking a job as like a coach of an indoor football team. Like, I just know that these jobs aren't paying enough that you need to do them. Why? Like, why? And, like, legitimately, Jacoby was in tears, telling me, Glenn, I didn't have anything when I was growing up. I didn't have anything. And, like, I see these kids, and, like, they can play, and they want to play, and they just want to do this, and they don't have anything either. And I will do anything for them to try to improve their path, to try to improve their chances, to try to improve their life. And we're just openly talking, and we're just being vulnerable, and a couple minutes go by, and I'm kind of facing the open area of the lobby, and then Rita walks through, and she sees me, and she's like, I thought you were going to the studio to prepare the show. And I just pointed out, I'm like, well, I got sidetracked. And she sees Jacoby sees her, and within 2 minutes we go from like crying and being vulnerable with each other to yelling and laughing, and Jacoby starts singing. And we were sharing the picture yesterday of, because everybody knows Rita's got a bald head, and so Jacoby was using, not bald, but like, short hair. And Jacoby was, like using her as a microphone as he was singing, like he was one of Gladys Knight's pips. And ironically, and Rita and I were talking about it yesterday, I probably left around like 11:30, and we had to walk to our cars because we had to get back to the station. We had a show to do. And Rita and I both parked, ironically, kind of further away. We didn't park in the garage of the Renaissance. We parked over on the street because we're both the type. We're like, can we save a couple bucks parking a block away? We're going to do that. And the entire time, I just had these, like, call them warm fuzzies, whatever you want to call them, these emotions that just kind of came over me about the time that we had just spent with Jacoby. And I started talking to Rita about like all of the times that I had ever spent with Jacoby and how special he was to me. And how deeply I appreciated him and how much I truly loved him. And boy, that hit me hard yesterday. I kind of lost it yesterday when she had me call into the radio show, and I'm trying to do everything in my power to not do it again today. I hope and I pray, and one of the points that I'll make in the column today as I share my experiences, and it's a lot of what you just heard, I pray that we never trivialize Jacoby Jones as the guy that made a catch. I pray that that's not what Jacoby Jones becomes over the years, is just the guy who made a catch or the guy who danced, although the dancing is part of it. I pray, I purposely did not write about Denver. I don't even like saying those words right now because I fear that we trivialize the significance of Jacoby Jones, the person, by just associating him with this one play. Jacoby Jones was maybe the most perfect man. We talked about this a lot. Man, the parallels, it also really hurt me yesterday thinking about the fact that Jacoby Jones was the lineage of Tony Siragusa, was the lineage of Artie Donovan, was the lineage of impactful football player, but whose impact went even beyond that because their relationship with the city was that much more significant. The guy who went out and touched everyone. You had an autographed Jacoby Jones football. It might have meant a lot to you, but you know why it wasn't valuable? Because everyone else had one too. You had a picture with Jacoby Jones. So did everyone else. And he did a lot of formal events, but a lot of you had just candid pictures of Jacoby Jones. I saw him all over my timeline yesterday. All over my timeline. People being like, I was just at Secrets with Jacoby not that long ago. Secrets. Oh, man, Jacoby would come out to my bar in Towson. That was Jacoby Jones. Man of the people. A legitimate international superstar who continued to treat everyone the exact same way, and a man with no acquaintances. I'll tell you about Jacoby Jones. Jacoby wouldn't let you be his acquaintance. You were his friend. If he knew you, you were his friend. I have stories about Jacoby Jones, and I am not unique in any way. So does everyone else in town. Everyone has their Jacoby Jones stories. And what he did for their kids. And the way he treated them like they were the only person in the room. The lineage of Art Donovan, Tony Siragusa continued with Jacoby Jones. He went out and touched everyone. And it's not a knock on anyone else. It's not a knock to say that not everyone can be this person. It has to be genuine. Not everyone can just show up in Baltimore and decide, I'm going to be the man of the people. I'm going to go out every night. It doesn't work that way. That's who Jacoby Jones wanted to be. In his heart, it was empty for him to not be out with people. He wanted to be around people. He wanted to share that love. It was the perfect marriage of athlete, franchise, and community. Same for Artie Donovan. Same for Tony Siragusa. That was the lineage in which Jacoby Jones fell. And that is what makes the pain so much more significant in losing Jacoby Jones. Because you're losing someone who so deeply cared about people, who deeply cared about this community, who wanted to be a part of it, and whose story of redemption, and may that not be forgotten, Jacoby Jones was cast off. He needed redemption. And ultimately, what happened in Denver proved to be a championship team's salvation. His redemption turned into their salvation. On the field, he was so much more than we could have expected him to be. He was here to be a returner. And he didn't put up eye-popping statistics. It's just that the threat of Jacoby Jones and the big plays he did make kept everything honest. I don't know if you remember, Joe Flacco had a pretty big arm. I love Jacoby Jones. I really did. I loved him. You guys know that. You guys heard him here all the time. And maybe there were guys that I was closer with. Like, I guess maybe I've been closer with Derek Mason over the years. Clearly in the last couple of years, I've been really close with Tyus. It has always been a fine line of, I don't want us to be friends because I need to be able to be critical of you. But sometimes it's just not possible to avoid that. And it sure was never possible with Jacoby. Jacoby would not allow you to be at arm's length. You were coming in. But I loved him personally. I loved him more for what he represented and what he meant for a community and for the fact that everyone loved him and how far he went out of his way for that. And I was shaken by the news of Jacoby Jones passing. I mean, it hurt me. And it still hurts. And it's hard to even process that hurt. And some of it is he and I are the same age. Like, that's not supposed to happen. God, it was so much fun to be in Jacoby Jones' orbit. I mean, it was so much fun. And this just sucks in ways I can't possibly describe. Vonta is going to join us later on in the program. We'll let him share some memories, some reflections, and we'll try to do some of that maybe as the week goes on. I'm going to talk about the Orioles. We talk about some other things this morning as well. We'll continue along on a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
There he is, Agent 00 Chicken. Nothing can keep him from Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. Because right now, he can get a 3-piece world-famous chicken box for just $8 with a portion of each sale donated to a local charity. Plus, register to win world-famous chicken for a year. Come to Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. It's a real thriller, but it's only for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and on the cover, Glenn Clark and Stan the Fan Charles sit down for a sports conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, discussing the Orioles and Ravens stadium leases, the future of horse racing in Maryland, and how his own football career at Johns Hopkins shaped him as a leader. This is also our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities in Maryland for your family to take advantage of throughout the summer. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. Hey, Stan the Fan is going to be back with you this afternoon. Appreciate him filling in on Friday. Him, Ross, and Luke will be talking baseball today at 5 o'clock, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And if you miss it live, you can check it out later, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Just a few minutes, Ben McDonald will join us, and we'll get some thoughts from him as the Orioles put the finishing touches on the first half of the season yesterday. Wow, that was something. I'll go ahead and Cedric Mullins is the default man of the match, and I get it. There's some wink, wink, nudge, nudge involved with that. The box score says Cedric Mullins had a 2 RBI double or 2-run double that won the game. That's it. That's the end of it. We all saw the same thing. We all know what happened.
Yeah, you put it where they ain't.
Technically, that is true.
Yeah.
It's some wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like, we all know. We all get it. But the box score says he won the game with a 2-run double. So he gets to be man of the match, particularly, like, there were no other, like Anthony Santander did have 2 extra base hits in the game, and it's not his fault that they couldn't score a run, an insurance run from third base. That would have been nice, right? What a thought. Would have thought maybe they could have done that. But they didn't. That's not his fault. And so I thought about Anthony Santander, but I don't know, the moment, the visual, the whole thing. Cedric Mullins is man of the match. One of the few man of the match since I left.
Yes, true.
3. Oh, no, because we were gone before that, because we were gone for the 4th of July, too. So 4. 4 total men of the match since July 3rd. It's difficult to talk about, and I'll get Ben's perspective. It's difficult to parse, and it's certainly, my God, if they had lost that game the way that it looked like they were about to lose that game yesterday, I don't even know what we would be feeling today. It's difficult to parse the totality of the situation for the Baltimore Orioles from just the latest taste that we've had. We all know the Orioles have not been the same team post the injuries to John Means and Kyle Bradish. And that really is the defining kind of moment for me. The Orioles started the season without John Means and Kyle Bradish, and were totally fine. Then they got those guys back, and that's when we started looking at it and saying, this team wins the World Series. Since losing John Means and Kyle Bradish again, they have not been able to do enough to overcome that serious flaw to continue to look like the world-beating team that we were confident could win the World Series. It really is a line of demarcation for the 2024 Orioles is the injuries to John Means and or the date that you re-lost John Means and Kyle Bradish. And it's weird because, again, you would say, but they were fine to begin the year without those guys. Well, part of that was Colton Cowser was swimming way over his head. That could never be replicated. Now, did we know that there was going to be no in-between for Colton Cowser? Like maybe we thought that Colton Cowser was up here and he'd sort of find like a nice median. Instead, it's kind of bottomed out. Some of it was that you got this stretch of 8 starts from Cole Irvin that was otherworldly. It's really hard to fathom how a guy goes from 8 starts of 2 earned runs or less to I'm not sure he can have a roster spot. But they simply haven't been able to replicate it. The offense has not been able to continue. That's part of the story from last week. As bad as the pitching was, my God, they weren't scoring runs at all. They scored like a total of 3 over 4 games? Was that
was it 4 over 4 or something? Yeah.
4 over 4 or something like that? 1 and 3. Was that the way the math worked out?
It was
so
0, bad I didn't
0,
want to know
0,
what it
1,
was.
3. Yeah, you don't even want to think about it. They just weren't scoring runs. Like, at all. And particularly 2 of their stars, Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, limped to the finish line in the first half. Boy, man, like I can't help but be like, as much as we were all excited about Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman at the All-Star break, the way that like the first half closed, you're sort of like, or maybe they could get the flu. Like maybe they could just not go to Arlington, just take a few days off, get them some soup, like something like that. Not going to be the case, obviously. Gunnar Henderson's going to participate tonight. Adley Rutschman will play tomorrow. They'll get a couple of days off after that. But, like, there really is a party that wants to be like, dude, maybe go to Tahiti or something. Like, not away from baseball.
It's the All-Star game. It's good.
It's good. It's certainly not good.
They're going to see other players that still know how to play baseball, and then they'll...
It's not that they don't know how to play baseball, Griffin.
Then they'll remember.
They still very much know how to play baseball. I just feel like they could use an extended break at the moment. Although that didn't work out in the playoffs last year. I don't know. I don't have a hot take for you. I don't. It starts with my belief is that offensively the Orioles will be fine. That's my belief. Now, when you say how, well, part of it is I don't think Gunnar Henderson is going to have weeks like this. I don't think Adley Rutschman's going to have. It's not quite a month, but it's close to a month like this. I think that will get better. I do think the veteran versus young player debate is going to be smack in their face coming out of the All-Star break. The Kobe Mayo, Ramon Arias thing is going to be very difficult to avoid. It is preposterously tough. You've got to really wiggle yourself. And it's not like he hasn't made some defensive plays still, Ramon Arias. Every now and then he'll do the thing that'll be like, that's why he was a Gold Glover. But it's not so wildly consistent that, like, that's going to be loudly in front of them. But even, the Kostowers, Heston Kjerstad versus Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins is going to be right in front of them. they're going to have to deal with those things. They might still be looking for another bat. We'll see. I mean, the Jackson Holiday thing is going to be back in front of him in a minute. Jorge Mateo's kind of going back to being Jorge Mateo. He is not demanding that he be an everyday player again. Like, that was a fun ride. And I'm not suggesting that Jorge Mateo shouldn't still have it. Like, Jorge Mateo should still have a roster spot on a good baseball team. But there's too many guys that are just not producing at the level that they need to produce in order for this team to be capable of winning a World Series. And there will be decisions that will have to be made. We keep trying to put them off. I was going to write that column like a month ago about like when they didn't send Cedric Mullins down, and instead
just kind of left. They didn't do anything.
They took the easy way out. They just kept sending whoever the Heston Kjerstad went back down, right? Like, they just always took the easy way out. That you can't avoid these awkward decisions forever. You can't. At some point, you're going to have to do something. And what might this look like if Heston Kjerstad had stayed up the whole time? I don't know, and kept getting regular playing time. I couldn't answer that question. But I get why it's being asked. And it's also complicated by what are you going to use in a trade in order to try to... I can't only read so many times the Orioles don't want to pay the high level of prospect in order to acquire pitching. I don't want to do that either. But, like, they need pitching. Did you see what it cost to get Hunter Harvey? That's the cost of pitching. And he doesn't even start. And I don't think the Royals have a chance of winning the World Series. But I get it. He's in control, and that's why he was desirable to them. This is the reality, man. Awkward decisions are coming. They're going to have to come in the next couple of weeks for the Baltimore Orioles. I think offensively they'll be fine. I think. I can't. I mean, I'm not a soothsayer. I think offensively they'll be fine. I think they ran into just a bad week. You know, certain guys that were just... I think they'll be okay. I think. The starting pitching... I can't escape that. That, to me, will continue to be the problem. And, you know, Craig Kimbrell looked good yesterday. Glad he had a whole week off.
Oh, else.
We think that's the problem, is that because he had a whole week off, he looked like ass? I mean...
Closers are better on winning teams. You know, just
what?
They get more work. They get to do it more.
I guess, but then when he gets too much work, he's not good either.
He had 4 saves last week.
Yeah, by the way, I saw in your 3 up, 3 down, you were way too fair to him when he was hitting guys. Like,
I mean, again, I'm not sure he hit those guys.
No, he definitely did. There's no debate about that.
There is debate about it.
No, there's not.
According to the stats, yes, he hit them.
No, not according to the stats. According to him doing it.
Also, according to doing it, he got 4 saves.
That's fine.
In 6 days.
We went through a hell of an adventure for him to get some of those saves.
He had 2 runners on once.
Yeah, that one, the one where he hit 2 guys was the one that was most. That was the one. Not hit 2 guys. Hit 2 guys. Both times.
Sure.
You keep saying sure.
Also, he got out of it, so
he did. God bless him. He did.
And he was 1 bad pitch away from getting out of it yesterday.
You have no idea if he was. There was nobody out.
Well, then
you have no clue.
Then he sat down Soto and Judge back.
Yeah, that's true. That was something that happened after he had walked 2 guys needlessly. I'll live with giving up a home run. It's insane that he walked those 2 guys to start the inning yesterday. Bat-ass bonkers. What is going on? Dude, there's one thing you can't do as a closer in a 1-run game. Put guys on base for free. Insanity. You make 1 pitch, it gets tagged for a home run, life goes on. That happened to Felix Bautista when he was having one of the greatest seasons in baseball history last year. That's going to happen. But there is no excuse. None. That is as bare minimal as it gets. It's not Craig Kimbrell shouldn't be doing that. It's Nick Vespi shouldn't be doing that. You don't come into a one-run game and give 2 batters free bases. That is as I've been around too many GMs in my life. Like you get, I know Mike Elias isn't an emotion guy. You get around an emotional GM, and there's a leadoff walk in an inning, and they are throwing things. I think the offense will be okay. I'm not as confident about the pitching. That has to be addressed. Do I still believe they can win the World Series? Yes. Do I think right now that I believe this team should be favored to win the World Series? Not at all. No. They've got to start playing like that again for me to believe it. Do I still think they can be favored to win the AL East? Probably. The Yankees are still really flawed. I get it. They came in and took 2 out of 3, but they're still really flawed. As you can tell, they don't catch the ball well. They got closer issues too. They have more starting pitching, though. Garrett Cole's starting to look like Garrett Cole again. They do have more starting pitching.
Luis Heel apparently is back.
Maybe he's back. I mean, the Orioles, I don't know if they're a good judgment at the moment for whether or not Luis Heel is back. All right, let's talk more about it. We actually had to do this a little bit earlier on because of his All-Star break schedule, but we always enjoy an opportunity to catch up with the great Ben McDonald right here on GCR. Of course, the Orioles wrapped up the first half of the season yesterday. We all know how much we enjoy listening to this man on Mass, and the rest of the country got to enjoy him on Roku. He is the great Ben McDonald, and he is back with us now on GCR. Ben, it's Glenn. It's always good to catch up, man. Thank you for taking the time for us today.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Always enjoy talking to you.
Dude, I know that, like, what really matters is that the Orioles are in first place and that, for the most part, things have gone really well. But it feels like, at the moment, it's harder to hide from some of the more glaring problems that could continue to linger for this team. And I feel like it starts with the starting pitching, right?
Yeah, look, I don't disagree. You know, it's if you take it into its totality, the first half, it was a hell of a first half. I think going into spring training, if we had said, hey, we'd be 1 game in front of the AL East at the All-Star break, I think everybody would have taken it. What's a little bit alarming is the way we kind of limped down the stretch in the second half. That's alarming in some ways, you know. And look, I think a lot of it's just right off of the game of baseball. I mean, it's very rare that everything goes bad at the same time, but that almost feels like what happened. I mean, the Orioles pitching was unbelievable. The offense was the best in baseball for most of the first half, and all of a sudden, when it stopped, man, it's just like somebody turned the water faucet off. It dried up, you know, and the offense just went down in a hurry. The pitchers had some rough outings mixed in there, and so it kind of all hit at the same time, which is really weird, you know. So I'm hoping this. For me, the win yesterday is by far the biggest win of the year. It's not even close. Mm-hmm. And I think this gives you some momentum going to the second half. It makes you feel good about going into your break a little bit to know that, okay, we did win the final game. We still 1 game in front in first place. Now we got to kind of hit the reset a little bit and recharge the batteries and get rolling for the second half of the season. I really think there's going to be some moves that are going to be made. I think Mike Elias is out beating the bushes big time. I don't think it's going to happen until late when more teams jump in. And be sellers when we know what's going to happen. But I think Mike realizes where the needs are. He obviously has the pulse of this team, and he knows that he's going to make the moves he feels like is going to benefit this team, no doubt.
Let me cover a couple things you said there, because I'll start with I feel like for the offense, and we know that obviously over the course of scoring like 4 runs or 2 runs over 4 games, it was a problem. Is that as simple as, because I do believe that can be more of a, hey, get back from the All-Star break, everything's fine. Are you confident that the struggles late in the first half that we saw from Adley, Gunnar, things like that just gets fixed by get them a little bit of a break, they'll be all right on the other side of the All-Star break?
Yeah, look, I hate to make excuses, but I will say this. I mean, that run that the Orioles had, played, 30 games in 31 days in June, and then you go out to the West Coast for a pretty long trip out there. You get back at 3 o'clock in the morning. You get a homestand. It's not an excuse because everybody does it, but I'll tell you this: it doesn't always show up right away. Sometimes it's a week later that it jumps on your back a little bit. These are the dog days of summer. The Orioles have played a lot. They're banged up right now, and look, I don't want to judge them on a sample size. And if I look at the last 2 weeks, I think it's more of a sample size than what's judging them on the entirety of the season. So if a team has been a really good team, and the Orioles have been one of the best teams in baseball for a longer period, and then they've struggled a little bit, I'm still going to lean on this is who I think they are. I think they're a really good ball team. I just think they're going through a rough spot. And look, All you got to do is look right across the way to the Yankees. The Yankees got off to the best start out of anybody, and yet they've not been great as of late either. So look, it happens to everybody. Somebody said the other day, look, the 1983 World Series champion Baltimore Orioles had 2 7-game losing streaks mixed in that run that they did. So, look, I would rather struggle now than I would like we did last year, limping into the playoffs. I felt like I could see our offense going south last year. We got to the playoffs. I'd rather have those struggles now. I'd rather the players go through this tough time right now, hit the reset button a little bit, and finish really strong down the stretch. Because as we know, it's all about how you're playing when the playoffs get here. We saw the Texas Rangers make that run. We saw the Diamondbacks make that run. We saw the 3 best teams in baseball not even get out of the first round of the playoffs. When you talk about the Braves, the Dodgers, and the Orioles last year. So you don't know what to expect. The only thing you can hope is you're peaking at the right time when the playoffs come around.
Ben McDonald with us here on GCR. Ben, to the pitching for a second, because I agree with you that I think it's obvious there will be moves made. Outside of Corbin Burnes and Grayson Rodriguez at the moment, it's very difficult for Orioles fans to feel trust that any of the other starters that they have thrown out in the last few weeks are guys that you could trust in a playoff game. And that's not to take anything away from things that, individually Dean Kramer's done or Albert Suarez, who's been... Is there one of those guys that you look at and say, you do the Lee Corso, they're not so fast, my friend. Is there one of those guys in that group that you still, just looking at their stuff, that maybe the numbers don't define it, that you believe really could be a story come the playoffs from that group?
Yeah, listen, Dean Kramer is the guy that proved last year. And look, he's got to be going well, like a lot of guys are going well. But, I'll take you back. Dean had a heck of a year last year. He showed me a lot. He won 13 games, went 13-5 through a lot of innings last year. I think, remember, this is only his 3rd start coming back from a tricep injury. I don't think he's ramped up all the way and quite comfortable with his mechanics. I could see a guy that typically finishes strong down the stretch. He's normally in great shape. His workout programs in the offseason are good. He normally is a second-half pitcher that can really go out and go for a while. And so I think if he gets right, and I don't think he's right yet, I think he could be a factor in that. Having said that, look, if I have my choices, if I'm Mike Elias, I'm going to get somebody that's going to slot in right behind Grayson Rodriguez and right behind Corbin Burnes. I need a guy like that. That's the kind of guy that I'm honestly looking for. And Dean Kramer becomes maybe my 4th starter, or he becomes a bullpen piece or something. But if I'm looking at this and trying to win the World Series this year, I got to go get not just a starting pitcher. It's got to be a top 3 starting pitcher. And here's the other piece of that, as you guys know. It has to be a pitcher that's got some club control, because you're talking about next year. Yep. And as you look at next year, there's not a whole lot of starting pitchers under club control. So if I'm Mike Elias, and look, this is hard to do. I got to have a guy for this year, but that guy needs to be a guy that's got club control, because I got to fill out my rotation for next year too. So you got to have an eye on 2025 as well. And that's when it becomes very difficult.
So let me just, if I could for a second, Ben, I am, because everything that you just said, I utterly and completely agree with. Is there someone that because everybody talks about like Garrett Crochet, and then you worry about the innings thing. Is there someone, obviously not knowing what the cost would be, but that you look out on the landscape of teams that might be in the trade market that you say, this to me would be the guy that would make perfect sense to me?
You know who I like, and I think he's under club control with the Toronto Blue Jays. It looks like obviously they're going to be sellers in this. I like Chris Bassett.
Yeah.
I think Chris Bassett has been around. He's pitched in the playoffs. He's a veteran guy that's had 2 of his best the last couple of years. I think he's got 2 more years of team control left. I like a guy like that. I think he really slots in as a real number 3. Maybe it won't kill your prospect list to go get him.
Right.
And I think he'd be a big piece, look, Crochet is intriguing to me, but if I go get Crochet, I would have to put him in the bullpen this year, which I wouldn't mind doing that, because I need a bullpen piece too.
No doubt.
And then next year I can hit the ground running with him, and he would be a starter for next year. So look, I love that move too. I can live with that move. If you go get, and that's a big ask, right? You go get Crochet and Bassett, that's a big ask, but that's might be what it takes if you're really now. Having said that, I'm not saying that what the Orioles have right now can't win the World Series. It can. There's no doubt these pieces could. But what scares me now is we're very thin. Like if another starter goes down or another reliever goes down, it really worries me at that point. What do you do at that point? And that's why I think we need one of each, just for more than anything, just for insurance policies, kind of, if you will, in case there is another injury late in the year.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Ben McDonald with us on GCR. I want to go back to Grayson for a second, if I could, because it still seems like every fourth or fifth start, we see kind of what happened over the weekend. And Grayson's great, and Grayson is obviously in the group of guys that you trust. But Ben, right now, what's the difference between Grayson Rodriguez being a reliable major league pitcher versus taking that next step to perhaps be in a post-Corbin Burns world, the ace of the Orioles staff that we've believed talent-wise he's capable of being?
Yeah, look, I mean, when you look at Grayson Rodriguez, it just screams number one, dude. Like, he's an ace. He's a number one. And look, honestly, he has pitched like that. Before his last start, I went back and looked. He had 29 starts going back to the All-Star break last year. He was 16-5 in those 29 starts with a 3.1 ERA. That is number one type numbers. There's no doubt about that. The only thing Grayson Rodriguez is missing right now is more experience. That's all he's missing. I mean, you look, he's got about 220 big league innings right now. That's all he's got, man. And so he's still learning a lot of different ways every time he goes out. And he'll learn how to minimize damage because when he has his A game and the changeup is working with that big fastball, he shuts guys down like he just shoves it, And then there's going to be times like the other day where he's got to learn how to minimize damage. And minimizing damage comes with mound time, innings, starts, all those things, years of experience. And so for me, I just keep running Grayson Rodriguez out there every fifth or sixth day. I just keep teaching him along the way, learning with him along the way, and just plugging him in. And as the innings begin to mount and the years go by, Grayson Rodriguez is going to be a real number one. I'm just telling you. We just got to keep him healthy and keep running him out there.
Well, you can see it. There's no doubt about that part of it. All right, Ben McDonald, I know you had been talking up Vance Honeycutt. We had heard you talking about him on the broadcast of late. What should we know? We obviously, the reputation is all of the tools are great. There's too much swing and miss. What should we know? What have you seen? Why were you so high on the idea of Vance Honeycutt, who the Orioles took with the 22nd pick?
I saw Vance last year, then I saw him at the College World Series and did 3 of his games this year. And I'm going to tell you what, he's the real deal, in my opinion. Yes, there is some swing and miss there. Yes, that is the reason why he fell to 22, because if there wasn't as much swing and miss there, Vance Honeycutt, for me, goes inside the top 10 or 12 picks. Yeah. In the first round. But because there is some swing and miss there, he fell to where he was. But when you talk about athleticism, he's a big guy that can, we talk about Enrique Bradfield Jr. and the way he can run and defend. This kid's right there with him. I mean, he can really go. I think he was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year back-to-back years. I saw him get some giant base hits. If you go back and look at their postseason, man, down the stretch, he had, I want to say, 4 walk-off base hits or home runs. Just in the postseason alone for North Carolina. He came up big when the lights got the brightest and the stage got the biggest, man. He was special. And so there's a lot of pop there. I mean, 28 homers, 28 RBIs he can run. I think the uncertainty is the swing and miss piece, But I'm with Matt Blood and Mike Elias on this. I did not think Vance Honeycutt would last to 22. I thought he'd be gone and off the table. But it's nice that he did. And I'll tell you, the Orioles got him a real dude. He's a real dude that's got to clean it up a little bit with the swing and miss. But if he does, but here's the thing for me. The floor for him is a fourth outfielder at the big league level. Sure. He's a big leaguer all day long. That's the floor. The ceiling, if he can hit a little bit, is an everyday center fielder because there's a lot of kids that come out and play center field in college that can't stick in center field at the big league level or in pro ball. He can stick, man. He can stick in center field. And so this is going to be a fun one to watch. I think the Orioles got him a good one with this kid.
I love that. Before we let you go, Ben, it feels like we're kind of on the cusp again of a couple of guys, right? The Kobe Mayos of the world and maybe a Jackson Holiday return, but it's tough because nobody's just going to create room for you. How close are we getting to the point of the Orioles maybe having to make an awkward decision about a veteran and saying, look, we love you and we are appreciative of everything that you've done, but it might just be time, whether it's Ramon Arias. I just don't know how close we might be to maybe that having to be the case because these guys just appear so ready to be at the major league level.
Yeah, look, I honestly thought that we may see Kobe Mayo yesterday. Wow. I thought that with Rodon on the mound, and you got Natoli down there who pitched, you could have sent him back. You could have brought up an extra position player for one game. I really thought Mayo was coming, honestly, yesterday, just to inject a little bit of spark in this offense, and then maybe you send him back down, or if he went 3 for 4, maybe he gets to stay a little bit longer, But the way Mike Elias talked the other day, Kobe Mayo's knocking, and he's been knocking for a while, and the numbers don't lie. He's pretty much accomplished. They keep saying, well, we got to clean him up at third base. And look, they do. I mean, he's got to get better if he's going to play big league third base, if that's going to be his real spot. But he took a giant step forward, from last year to this year. So that's a positive sign. But you can always plug him in at DH and at first base. He can play third. He might even be able to go to a corner spot in the outfield as well. But I think, look, honestly, I think a lot's going to depend on the first road trip of the year after the All-Star break. If this offense continues to sputter, I think Mike Elias is going to go and say, okay, I got to do something. I got to inject one of my young prospects in here. I got to try to light this fire and get it going again, And so I think that's what you're going to see. The Orioles start off in Texas and they go to Miami. If this offense is sputtering, I'm saying Kobe Mayo comes pretty quick. And from what I hear, Jackson Holiday's starting to swing the bat much better as well, which is a great sign. So there'll be some options along with some trade pieces, I think, at some point in time here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll see what happens.
How you spending your All-Star break?
I got home late last night, so I'm going to hang out here and go up to the farm and cut some grass and do some things and relax a little bit in this warm weather we got down here in the Baton Rouge area. And then I'm going to head back to Miami, and I'll have the games in Miami after the boys leave Texas, so that'd be fun.
Sounds pretty good to me. Ben McDonald, always appreciate you. Enjoyed you and Jeff. That was fun with you and Jeff and reliving Brawls Past. That was a fun way to spend a Sunday morning, man. That was a really fun.
Yeah, that was a good show. It was a good show, and it was better because of the game, man. I think I lost hair yesterday. I mean, you don't see both closers for teams that are all star-type closers both give up, blow leads like that. So it was a crazy game.
All's well that ends well. Ben McDonald, always appreciate you, brothers. But thanks for spending the time with us.
Always good to talk to you. Take care.
The great Ben McDonald with us here on GCR on a Monday morning. We'll come back in. We will go over 3 up and 3 down for the week. Then we're going to chat with Sydni Black, the former Loyola lacrosse star who's playing in Athletes Unlimited. That's on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Frederick Keys Baseball is back. With 30 more home games beginning on July 2nd, the Keys are excited to welcome you back to Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium. We want to see you there. Countless promotions will be on display every game, with it ranging from Tap House Tuesdays to Firework Fridays and everything in between. For more information or to buy tickets, call 301-815-9939 or visit FrederickKeys.com today.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from driveeasymd.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at driveeasymd.com.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, countysports.zone still humming this summer, and maybe there aren't games going on, but they've got updates, news. I was just checking out some news that Locust Point is hosting in the South Baltimore Baseball League, will be hosting the Maryland Little League State Tournament. I did not know that. Lots of great updates and sort of looking back on the past year, things you might have missed that were interesting stories from high school sports, and then looking ahead to next year, as well as news about commitments, coaching changes, things along those lines. They've got them all. Countysports.zone. I saw a piece about Jackson Merrill, of course, the former Severna Park high school standout who's going to be playing in his first MLB All-Star game as a rookie. It's all there, countysports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Time for us to do this.
Three up.
And 3 down.
There you go. That's what we got. That's what we're doing here. This is the print issue of Press Box. It's available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. On the cover, Maryland Governor Wes Moore sat down for a sports conversation with myself and Stan the Fan Charles. You can find that as well as lots of other great content, some look-aheads to football season in here, some betting advice for football season, and, of course, it's our big travel section with lots of sports tourism information inside this print issue of Press Box, which is available right now for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms. Shouldn't spend a lot of time on this week because there's not a lot to talk about, but 1 in 5 week for the Orioles. We still, by rule, we go 3 up and 3 down anyway. And it was so bad that, yes, I did think about Birch Smith. I didn't go with Birch Smith, but, yes, I did think about him. Third on my up list.
I thought about Benitez Tolley.
Yeah. I mean, he's no Birch Smith.
He's no Birch Smith?
No. Plus, he's got that beard. It's so good. Ryan Mountcastle went 7 for 23. He wasn't great, but he went 7 for 23 this week. And in a week where you win one game, that's just enough to steal the third spot on the up list. Ryan Mountcastle is number 3.
Yeah, Mountcastle was okay enough, I guess. He was not on my list. Jacob Webb was my number 3.
Jacob Webb is significantly higher on my list.
Well, he's my number 3. Yeah, 3 scoreless appearances. It was it was pretty good.
Significantly higher.
A team that doesn't want to win a game.
My number 2 is Anthony Santander. And, yeah, a lot of his 814 OPS is because he had a home run and a triple yesterday. Like, that does tell a lot of the story. But it was also the one game they won this week. So that's relevant in the conversation. Anthony Santander is number 2.
He was my number 2 as well.
Number 1 is Jacob Webb. No one did their job as well as Jacob Webb did this week. No one. I can't even imagine who you have at number 1.
Cedric Mullins is number 1.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. It was an awful week, and
yes, but some guys
he gave the moment that they needed. It was.
That is.
I mean, this is
brutal.
a completely different conversation if he does not if he doesn't come through somehow yesterday, and he did.
It requires you to ignore that.
That he hit a double. You want me to ignore that he hit a double?
It was like a 90-some% expected catch rate on that play.
So maybe I put Anthony Volpe here? Like
look, I get a lot of people when I was doing Man of the Match yesterday were like, I think it should be Verdugo. I think it should be Volpe. Yeah, I get it. If Cedric Mullins had an otherwise significant week, Fine. You add into the fact that he also had the double. Considering that was it, this is nuts. I mean, this is kind of nuts.
I mean,
this is
he draws Verdugo in because Verdugo, I guess, expects him to hit it shorter, and then he gets it over his head. I mean, it was the moment of the week.
Yeah,
and
it's a neat moment.
They needed it.
Yeah, Jacob Webb was the best this week.
Ben McDonald said it. It's the win of the year, so far. So.
All right, down could have been anyone. Literally anyone. Anyone at all. But I did end up going with guys that I have more significant expectations for. Adley Rutschman avoids being on the list this week because I went with one hitter, one starter, one reliever. Like, I just kind of chose one from everybody. So God bless you. Gunner's number 3. And we don't like doing this, and Gunnar did end up hitting a home run yesterday, and that does matter. But he had 8 strikeouts this week. And while, yes, there are times where he's getting squeezed, there's no doubt. And particularly in the 9th inning yesterday, there were like 2 pitches that you're just like, dude, what are you? It does also seem like his emotions are starting to get the better of him. And sometimes he's arguing about things that were flatly strikes. And some of this is sort of the adjustment to being a star. And Gunner's emotions got the better of him a couple of times this week in terms of just balls and strikes. 8 strikeouts this week for Gunnar Henderson. And the guy that needed to come through, the guy that you were counting on to come through yesterday in the 9th inning didn't. And they were in a really bad spot. Now, thankfully, they ended up winning the game anyway, thanks to miracles. But he's the guy. That's the guy you went up. Like, you were doing the bit where, like, oh, this is going to be poetic, right? Like, Ben Rice gets the home run, and then Gunnar Henderson turns around and wins it on a home run. Like, you're doing that in your mind. It was a bad week for Gunnar. The home run did save it from being an awful week, and there you could argue other guys had statistically worse weeks, but it was a bad week for Gunnar. He's number 3.
Yeah, it was a very, very bad week. The home run did save him from my list, so I went with Dean Kramer as my number 3 here. It was horrendous versus Chicago on Tuesday, and then I thought. I mean, I guess they ended up probably doing the right thing, but I thought, they were going to try to let him at least finish the 5th, I guess, and see how much further he could have gone yesterday. But yeah, it was not good enough. He needs to be much, much better. So Dean Kramer.
Grayson Rodriguez is number 2, again, because the expectations are higher. That's the reality. Like, Grayson Rodriguez is supposed to be a guy who's capable of being a stopper. And he obviously was not that on, was that Saturday?
Yeah.
Days are all running together. And the real difficult part is you really do like, and Reed and I joked about it when I called into the show like last Tuesday, that even when we talk about how we have the confidence in Grayson Rodriguez, there's this sort of like, but every 4th or 5th start, and then you really look at it and you're like, wow, it really is every 4th or 5th start. Like, it's not just me saying that. It really is just about every 4th or 5th start that it kind of goes off the deep end. So before Saturday, where he allows 6 earned runs on 8 hits and a walk over 5 innings, he had 3 really good starts. And the one in Oakland, was not maybe dominant, but it was still good. 3 really good starts. Literally 4 starts before the one on Saturday. He got shelled in Houston. 4 starts before that was that goofy game where he struck out 10 against the Red Sox, but allowed 4 earned runs on 7 hits and a walk in Boston, which he didn't get shelled necessarily, but it wasn't good. 4 starts before that was the disaster in Anaheim. Another one where, ironically, he did mix in 7 strikeouts because even when he gets rocked, he mixes in 7 strikeouts. It's every 4th or 5th start. There's been one of these. And you still have utter confidence in Grayson Rodriguez, but it's what we were just talking about with Ben McDonald. It's weird. This has got to go. Like, when he gets hit, man. And that was the case on Saturday. Grayson Rodriguez, number 2.
I only went with one starting pitcher, so that was Dean. I mean, Grayson was, it was bad, and maybe it's just because he sparses it out just enough that I never feel like that any singular start is bad enough for him to go in my bottom 3. So I went with Adley as my number 2 here. I mean, he
wasn't a good week. There's no
doubt. It was a really bad week. He unproductive at bats. Like, it was very bad from Adley. So he was my number 2.
Craig Kimbrell gets to be number 1 this week because I can't let this go. All week. You had all week. It's not an overuse thing. It's not, and it really is about the 2 walks to me. Like, what in the world are you doing? That is bonkers. The one time he pitched all week. After we had all started to say, maybe we were too hard on Craig Kimbrell. Maybe he's proven to be the guy that we thought he was going to be. How in the world do you come into a game against that lineup and walk not Judge? You walk Judge again. He can do the bit. Steve Johnson was saying this to me a couple weeks ago. He's like, "Look, man, I
don't
know
know they pitched him at all.
I know Cade Povich had an elevated walk number against the Yankees in that start, but like in that game, maybe I can understand it, right? Like, you're not talking about walking Judge or Soto. Unfathomable that he was in that spot. Unconscionable. That is literally the worst thing that I have seen someone do all season is come into that game in a 1-run spot and walk the first 2 guys that you're facing. That is like, you want to be a competent major league pitcher, you can't do that. More or less be the closer that you're going to win a World Series with. And I get it, everybody has bad days and the whole thing. I know. And if your argument is, well, like he just hadn't been used, so he was cold. Dude, that doesn't mean you can't throw a strike. A strike! I think they both went to 3 and 2, if I remember correctly. He did throw a couple of strikes. Unfathomable that happened. He's number 1.
Yeah, I guess I just like this is what happens with closers sometimes, and it was really bad, especially against the Yankees, so it was terrible. But Kimbrell not on my list. I was a week late, so Cole Irvin was my number 1 for coming in and doing nothing against the Cubs on whatever day that was, Wednesday, I think. So Cole Irvin was my number 1, and I know I'm a week late, but Cole Irvin was not good. While pretty much everyone all week was not good.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was bad, but I'm at the point where I don't have any expectations for Cole Irvin anymore, unfortunately. So he can't make my list any longer. Like not a week like this, not in a week where too many of the guys that I expect good things from didn't perform. Like in a lot of weeks, probably could make my list, but too many guys that I expect something from. Hey, we'll get it up at glennclarkradio.com. Just not a pleasant week whatsoever. That's 3 up and 3 down. We'll do I don't know exactly what we'll do. We'll do a first half report card or a first half 3. I don't know what we'll do. We'll do something this week. Like we normally do like pats on the ass for the season during the Ravens bye. We'll do something like that this week. I just don't know that 3 up and 3 down is quite enough to cover the
entire
I guess
5 up.
Yeah, I don't know how we do that. Maybe we'll do a report.
Felix Bautista save, 5-out save for Bautista.
We'll do a report card or something. I don't know. We'll do something to kind of go over the first half this week. All right. We continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Still to come today, we'll talk Home Run Derby with Mike Petriello from MLB.com. He's going to be part of the ESPN 2 broadcast of the event tonight, and also we'll remember Jacoby Jones with Vonta Leach. But we also do this a little bit earlier on. They're getting ready to play some lacrosse out in Sparks this week. And one of the folks who will be part of Athletes Unlimited is a former Loyola star and now a rookie in the Pro League. She's Sydni Black. Let's take a listen right here on GCR.
Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse gets underway this Thursday night in Sparks at USA Lacrosse headquarters. And our next guest, an absolute legend during her career at Loyola. And now she is stepping up and going to the pro ranks. She is Sydni Black, and she is with us now here on GCR. Sydni, it's Glenn. It's so great to chat with you. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
This is kind of cool that it works out this way, right? Like, I remember that, like, your dad is from Baltimore. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. Yes.
So you end up back in Baltimore, and now you kind of get to continue, like, professionally in this area. That's got to be a really cool thing for you, right?
Definitely is. I don't think that any of my family thought I would end up in Baltimore. Again, following my dad's footsteps, but here I am, and I'm never leaving, it looks like.
We love that. We love everything about it. Sydni, I want to talk about Athletes Unlimited, but obviously I'm a Loyola guy, so I want to reflect for just a minute. everything that you were able to accomplish. And I'm sure that you would say, hey, we wanted to win national championships. We believed we had the right to. But to become such a dominant program out of the Patriot League, that's not an easy thing to do. How were you all able to accomplish so many incredible things over the time that you were at Loyola?
During my 4 years, I was able to contribute to that, but I know I stand on the backs of giants, as my other teammates would say, and my former teammates would say. Records don't happen unless someone starts them. So, all of the alumni who really started that record for us that we hold with the Patriot League wins, the in-conference wins, that started with them. And, it's always in the back of our minds when we're playing, but we never let it really stress us, trying to maintain the record or worrying about how many consecutive Patriot League championships you can be seen and everything like that. We're just fortunate enough to have an incredible coaching staff that leads us in the right way, in the right direction, and incredible leadership on the field that takes us there. And it's pretty cool to be a part of history. I will say that. It's definitely something that I will brag about, when I'm later in my 40s or my 50s and talking about to my kids. But it was an incredible experience.
You got things to do right now. I understand that. Am I correct that a couple of your former Loyola teammates are also going to be playing in Athletes Unlimited this summer?
Yes, reuniting with, hopefully reuniting with on the same team with Tyler and Livy Rosenzweig, and then a couple of alumni who I never got to play with, but always got to play in the alumni scrimmages against, Katrina Geiger and Katie Glenn. So will be fun to hopefully team up against them, but definitely to go against them.
Have you scored against Katie before? Like, has that happened in an alumni game?
It was my sophomore year. I remember because she came off, an outstanding season with Athletes Unlimited, and I was just, pretty much shaking in my boots going at her, but she let me get one on her. So I'll keep that one.
That's awesome. Sydni Black is with us. Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse gets underway Thursday night up in Sparks. Sydni, you mentioned that coaching staff, and Jen Adams talked to Press Box about you recently and talked about the opportunity that you have to have an even global impact on the game. And I don't know how much of that can even be real for you versus playing lacrosse, but obviously it's a sport that hasn't had as much representation over the years. Do you feel a little bit of that you can be that type of player for a generation of young girls to look at and say, I would like to be like Sydni. I want to be the next one?
That's a conversation I've had with the coaching staff ever since I stepped foot on campus. I made it very clear to them that, I may be one of the first, but I definitely do not want to be the last. And whatever I can do that you can help me with to get to that point where, I can help inspire other girls from different areas who look not like your traditional lacrosse player. And Jen had really, stepped to the forefront of that challenge. And she made it her mission to make sure that whatever I needed to feel like I was going to be able to accomplish that she could provide for me. And, I owe her a lot just because of how she recruits. She's probably one of the most diverse, inclusive minds in the game. And I wasn't really comfortable with it at first, but she really pushed me to embrace that role. And make sure that she knew that, she would come up to me after games or after practices and say, Sydni, these little girls, they look up to you. And she was like, no matter what race they are, where they're from, they look up to you and you can do whatever you want with that. And really inspired me to just keep being myself. I think, especially this past season, maybe you noticed as well. I let my personality kind of just overflow. And I just really was myself out there on the field. And, I got a lot of, positive feedback of people saying, where was this? We love watching you because you just play with so much passion. And I think it all stems from that goal of, spreading the game as much as I can. If I can get one little girl who looks like me to pick up a stick and keep with it just because, she was inspired, then mission accomplished.
Is it safe to assume that will continue now as you go into your pro career, that that energy, that passion that we got to see, that's not going anywhere now?
Oh yeah, that's me now. That's what I'm bringing to the table. So, I've noticed that it, fires up my teammates a lot, and, whatever you can bring to the table as a teammate, whether it's competitive edge, energy, it's really important to have. So seeing what it can do. So I'm going to definitely keep bringing the energy.
Sydni, obviously, we're chatting with Sydni Black here on GCR. This is obviously a little bit different, right? It is a team competition, but it's not a team competition in Athletes Unlimited. I imagine you're not coming in just to play nice and, I'm happy to be here. What does it take to break through in this individual competition here in your first year?
Right. Well, obviously world-class athletes here with the names that we have on this roster. Women that I've looked up to since I started playing lacrosse, competitors in college that I've admired in their style of play. It's going to take a lot. I feel like I've always had a competitive edge, and that's something that's always pushed me to be better, willing to outwork those around me. So, if there's a loose ball that's going out of bounds, I'm going to throw my whole body on the ground to get it. I'm going to be willing to not only give my all for myself, but, team matters. Team points matter, especially in Athletes Unlimited too. People might look at the scoring and say, oh, well, goal's worth this much, or, you can't turn the ball over, but I think that forces you to play a little bit scared. I'm going to try and stick to my normal game plan of playing like myself, contributing as much as I can to help my team, and helping in any way I can.
All of that, I think that's what everyone wants to come out and see. I think that's the idea. You mentioned some of the world-class athletes. I know that having played in NCAA tournaments and so many of the things that you've done over the years, you've probably met many of them, but is there anyone that you've never met or interacted with that you're most looking forward to going up against, or maybe just saying hello to at some point during the summer?
Right. But definitely, huge fans of obviously, some of the vets here, and Sam Apuzzo, Charlotte North, Taylor Moreno, all of them are incredible. So looking to go up against them and playing with them would be just a phenomenal honor, even to just be on the same field as them. They're pioneers that got us here, in Athletes Unlimited, in the sport of lacrosse, So I'm looking forward to going up against them. Pretty much met everybody now. So,
okay, everything's... You've gotten through all of the...
Yeah, starstruck. I'm still starstruck when I see them all, but now, we're peers and we're coworkers now. So acting a little more professional, but definitely excited to reunite with, Livy Rosenzweig and Katie Detweiler. Those are my girls. So
and let me wrap with that, if I could. Just everything that you all have accomplished at Loyola. I referenced that, taking the next step. I know how difficult it is. I know it's almost unreasonable to think that that's the level, but what will it take? What is the difference between being able to win the Patriot League and make runs versus being there, playing Memorial Day weekend and win a national championship?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the dominance in the Patriot League, I think people tend to overlook the skill and the talent that we bring at Loyola. But I think that sometimes people forget that Loyola produces All-Americans almost every season. Livy and Katie being a part of that group. And Jen and Dana and Hager have really prepared us for this moment. And, whether it's been the one-on-one work we've done with them throughout our careers, or just being able to step up in big moments. I think that when you can step up in big moments, especially Livy, who had a hand in pretty much every record that was set at Loyola, it just comes as second nature to be able to play with those who are just as skilled around you, to not be scared of the moment and step up to the moment and step up to the plate and contribute all that you already can do. We're here for a reason. It wasn't a pity draft. It wasn't a pity invite that any of us got. We're recognized as some of the best players in the sport. And I think that we're ready to show the world, what Loyola lacrosse is made of.
auprosports.com is the website. Everything gets underway Thursday night, USA Lacrosse headquarters. Sydney, what about you? Social media, where can fans be giving you a follow?
Sure. I'm on Instagram, Sydni Black _.
Give Sydney a follow there. Sydney, it's a pleasure to watch you play this game. Can't wait to see you out at Athletes Unlimited. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Thank you so much.
That's Sydni Black. Again, Athletes Unlimited Lacrosse gets underway Thursday night out in Sparks at USA Lacrosse headquarters. Appreciate her taking the time. Well, what a pleasant surprise this is. I told him that I would go to Annapolis with him. I said, dude, I'll go down because, as you know, I love Navy, right?
Navy football practice.
I love Navy, and I love everything about the program, and I'm a big Scott Strassmeyer guy, despite the fact that I work at Loyola. I'm still a Navy guy. Yeah. I hope nobody over there heard it. I love Navy. I said, I'll go down there with you. But this guy just decided to come hang out in studio this morning. I love Scott Wycoff from WBAL. You all know Scott, of course. Scott, you have heard this man's voice. How many years have you been at BAL now?
This is funny you ask. This is my 22nd anniversary today.
No.
Overshadowed by Robert Lang's 20th.
I saw that.
20th anniversary.
He got like the cake and everything. They went all out for the 20th anniversary.
I was lost in the shadows.
Yeah.
But this morning I was in Annapolis doing a story. Of course, this morning I was talking about all the local politicians and folks reacting to what went on over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I had to stop by Growls because I know the pickle aficionado that you are.
Man.
And I had to pick up these Chrissy's pickles. I got both the Bayou Bites, hand cut, hand packed, and I got the bread and butter. So when just middle of the road.
Okay, so
then the Bayou Bites.
So let's have an adult conversation. I know you because you've talked about what is the Ohio-based pickle?
Tony Paco pickles.
Tony Paco
and
pickles.
I'm a Cleveland guy, but they're Toledo.
Okay.
And they carry them in some of the stores in Cleveland.
Okay.
And if you're in Cleveland, you eat two things. You eat Stadium mustard, which is Burtman's.
100%.
And then you eat Tony Paco's pickles. And if you're from Toledo, you eat their hot dogs, but they don't travel well to Cleveland.
Yeah, probably not. Fair enough. So are you a pickle aficionado too, or are you
love the pickles? And I love the fact now that since I fell off the gym routine and I started stuffing my face with Hershey bars during COVID, that they're 0 calories. So I can sit at home and I can eat a whole jar and not put a single pound on it.
It is the good news about this. So I will tell you, right? Now, I'm going to try them. I am opposed to bread and butter pickles. I'm opposed to it. Give me that dill. I want the dill. I want dill and more dill.
It came down between the dill and the bread and butter.
I'm really excited to try the Bayou Bites. Really excited. These I'm going to try, and I can be proven wrong. Okay. But here's what I find with the bread and butter pickles is they're trying to make a candy.
Yes.
Typically. I don't need my hands to be sticky after eating a pickle. I don't like that. I don't want that.
And the little things, I don't know what they are, the little nuggets, the little
Yeah. I don't know what they are. I have no idea what they are. Griffin, can you grab a couple forks if you don't mind? This is Griffin, by the way. I don't think we actually introduced you. Griffin is my sidekick here. Scott Wycoff.
Yeah, we're talking during the interview about my schedule at WBAL.
You're an
3
insane
a.m.
person. You're an insane
until 11. And I don't know if your wife's like mine. My wife is such an arm's length from what I do for life.
It's
no interest at all.
For the best.
No interest at all.
The best thing.
She's like, why do you go to work at 3 when your first report, we do this news magazine from 5 to 5:30. You're not on until 5. What? I go, I got to drive there. I live in Albany. I've got to figure out what my story is.
Exactly right.
Edit my audio. I've got to get to where my story is. I had to go from TV Hill to Annapolis today to do my story. So, I mean, and I'm going straight out.
So what time did you wake up?
1:18.
Oh, God.
And here's the insult to injury. We had our 2-year-old granddaughter. We were babysitting over the weekend. She hit the button sometime during the day on Saturday on my alarm. So 1:18 Sunday morning, the alarm. I freaked out.
Well, but
I
would
thought
assume,
I had to go to work.
Hang on, Scott, I would assume that at this point in your life, you can't even really sleep in like that late, can
Saturday
you?
and Sunday, I can do 8 o'clock.
Wow. Okay.
I get a little restless after I think the world's passing me
That
by.
was when I was doing mornings. That was always the most difficult part for me.
Yeah.
Was that I would want to say to she was then my girlfriend, but now my wife. I'd be like, I would like to sleep till 10 if possible on Saturday, and I couldn't do it. My body just was like, nah, dude, it's not happening. I would end up waking up at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I was 26 or whatever I was at the time. Nobody my age was up at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
Well, that was another behind the scenes discussion we had. You asked me how I do this. I said if I wasn't 62 years old, end of my career, it's a lot easier. But no, it's great. And I love going to Growls. I love going because I'm out there constantly for Navy.
Right.
At BAL, we do the Navy Radio Network, but also I've been fortunate enough that they've trusted me to do a lot of Navy baseball streaming on the Plus. Do wrestling.
That's cool.
I mean,
that's cool.
Never done wrestling before. Women's volleyball.
So
you see, when Pete Medhurst,
of course,
is doing something else,
yes,
that's when I find my head.
It's been fruitful for me in my life too. I got to do DC United for a little while because Pete was like, "Hey man, I'm going to be off with Navy. Do you want to be the backup for DC United?" And I would say, yes.
It's Pete Medhurst's play-by-play world that we all live in.
I call him the franchise. Everybody knows that's my guy. I love Pete.
But I mean, you I mean, you're comfortable now. I mean, you probably have anxiety like I do,
Mm-hmm.
but you're probably comfortable now doing play-by-play for just about anything, right?
Oh, it's funny you say that because they once asked me about wrestling, and I said straight up, like, I'll do it, but you're gonna have to live with the fact that I'm at the point now where when I get handed a new sport, I am confident enough in my abilities as a broadcaster that will overcome whatever shortcomings I have with the sport itself. I would still tell you I don't feel strong when I do a hockey game.
Right.
Like when I do field hockey, when I do ice hockey, like I do not know all of the intricacies of the rules. I don't.
It's funny. That was the first sport I ever did.
Really?
Yeah. First sport, freshman year on campus at Union College.
What did I see? You posted a picture recently of a team that you had worked with.
Maine Mariners.
The Maine Mariners.
Hockey.
That's what it was.
We used to go to the Baltimore Arena.
Yeah.
Play the Baltimore Skipjacks.
Yeah.
The voice of the Skipjacks, Terry Ficcarelli.
Okay, so this was after Kenny Albert was the voice of the Skipjacks?
It was before Kenny.
Okay, before.
Yep,
All
right before the Tom Ebright ownership group
Yeah.
came in. And, but the great thing with the Naval Academy is they brought with me a member of the athletic department who is a former wrestler at Navy.
Okay.
Jay Antonelli.
Yeah.
He wrestled at Navy. He coached at Navy. He coached in the Marine Corps. And we sat down before our first broadcast. I said, Jay, you're the play-by-play guy.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
we're watching the coach's tape. Just talk about the move you're seeing, and I'll slip in what their mother's name is,
Right.
what their
Right,
major
yeah.
is.
I'll guide us through the broadcast.
What their grade
Yes.
point average is when we need to take a break.
Scott, have you ever done track and field?
No.
Okay, the first time I ever did track and field.
Live.
I said, what exactly am I doing? And they were like, imagine you're the host of the Red Zone channel. Like, that's what you're. And now we go to this. And now we go to that. And now just don't even try to, like, do a broadcast during the race. Just figure out who won at the end.
And you did it live?
Oh, yeah, we did it live.
That's amazing because so much that we see, not now during the
like
Olympics, is pre, where they tape it all, and they sit down, like they
and
do.
They cut back to
like
it.
They used to do the Tour de France before it was live.
Yep.
You do all that. But, track and field.
It was awful. It was awful. But, again, it was easy for me because they just said, all you're doing, now we head to the discus. Now we head to and don't attempt to, like, do play-by-play. Just let the video do the work.
18 feet 3 inches.
Exactly right. That's exactly what it ended up being for that.
Scarsdale, New York.
Exactly what it was, Scott. I'm not kidding. That's exactly what it was. All right, let's try the bread and butter first because I don't have as much confidence in the way that I'm going to feel about these.
And
here,
you've got
pass that down to Griffin. All right, there you go.
And Griffin, very impressive that Griffin has actual utensils.
We only the finest here at Press Box, Scott. Only the
we
finest.
We fight over utensils when the food comes in.
All right, here we go.
We had forks for Robert Lang's 20th anniversary.
Boy, they really went
cake.
Can I be the one to say it? I couldn't believe it was only 20 years for Robert Lang
I know.
at WBAL.
Robert, I mean, and
in my mind, he's been there at least as long as you have.
And that's the amazing thing. Someone like Robert loves what he's doing so much.
Yeah.
And you hear him so much. Like your listeners, he feels like he's been around forever.
100%.
When John Patty retired, I mean, John Patty was born at WBAL.
So it's so funny. I've become very good friends with Brian Neiman. I like Brian a great deal. He couldn't be a nicer guy. He'll like send me messages about listening to the show. He's just the best. But when he showed up, no joke, I was like, you think this guy can be Dave Durian? Right. You think this guy, this haircut can be Dave Durian? Yeah. I was definitely, I've told him that before. Yeah. Like when I found out you guys hired him, I was like, it's just some guy with a haircut. They think they can eat. Dave Durian told me the Hereford Zone was 2 hours late, and I knew it meant the Hereford Zone was 2 hours late.
Now it's Brian Neiman and C4. And then that was the thing. When they paired Brian and C4 together, I mean, that was like, really?
Yeah, you're right.
That is so cool
because
most stations would say, oh, no, we got to keep them separate. Yep. But at BAL, they're like, no, let's put them together. Now the chemistry.
I really genuinely love, and I don't know C4 as well, but I like C4.
Yeah.
We always
and he's all Baltimore.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
God.
He's legitimate.
Correct.
I mean, you can go anywhere and say Clarence Mitchell.
Yes.
And they'll say, come on in.
Correct.
You can interview. Okay, here we go.
Try to do another day with Jeremy.
Yeah, that's if he's good with that, absolutely. Absolutely. Tell him I love him. He knows. He also still owes us the Mayo hot dogs. Jeremy lost a bet. So Jeremy Conn will join us, I don't know, tomorrow or something. Oh, it can't be tomorrow. Jim Henneman's coming in the studio tomorrow.
All right, I'll figure it out.
All right.
Now Jeremy's going to have it in for me.
No.
He's going to be waiting outside the Towson studio.
Right. He's going to be. First of all, Jeremy has lost so many bets. Not like real bets with money. He wins all of those.
My famous WBAL News Car 2 is going to be keyed by Jeremy Kahn.
Jeremy owes us. He's got to eat 5 hot dogs slathered in mayo. That's right. Yeah. During the course of a show, right?
Mayo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Psychopaths. All right, here we go. Bread and butter.
Ooh.
Okay, here's what I'll say.
Not overly done.
Way better than your average bread and butter pickle. It's still not. I would still prefer Dill's.
Right.
But this does not have that sticky nonsense.
I could actually put that in a sandwich.
Yeah, actually. I will give that credit. Oh, boy, well done, Chrissy. Who is Chrissy from Chrissy's Pickles? Where are these from?
Maryland.
Freeland, Maryland. You're right.
They're made in Maryland.
Well,
That's
how
the great thing
about
about
that?
Growls. They got all this Maryland stuff.
I love that. All right, now, I'm very excited about these.
Okay, Griff.
These seem like a winner.
You got your plate?
Do you want to grade them? Do you want to give it a number?
That was pretty good. I mean, what's the in terms of?
You're grading it on no, just on the overall and
That's pretty good.
I would say I would probably grade these higher than I would because
I don't know if I've had bread. I guess I've had to have had bread. And butter.
You've had bread and butter pickles,
Okay.
You just
Griffin.
didn't know it.
Okay.
Yeah, you've had bread and butter pickles. I assure you.
I wasn't 100% sure what to expect. I really enjoyed it.
Because
so
if you're not a pickle geek
8?
like us, you have no idea
That's
what we're talking about.
That's a solid 7.5,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Like that is a.
I feel like it was an 8.
To
Felt
me,
pretty good.
an average bread and butter pickle is a 4. Like I just don't.
And if you're a fan of bread and butter pickles, it's off the charts.
Oh, 100%. I don't like bread and butter pickles, and yet that was not abrasive to me in any way.
Not offensive.
Thank you. That was that's why this man's on WBAL. I'm over here hanging out. I'm over here
working 3 a.m.
This is why I can't get the Athletes Unlimited lacrosse gig.
You're working banker's hours. Enjoy.
All right. Let's go with the Griffin. I touched that with my finger, but look, you and I have been through enough together at this point. I think we'll survive. All right. There you go. These are from Chrissy's Pickles. These are the Bayou Bites.
Yeah.
And I am actually quite excited about these.
So, even though I did go to Union College,
yes,
I didn't.
Was this mine or yours? I don't remember.
This is mine.
That's yours.
I was a history major, so I'm not that smart. I kind of snuck in.
Well,
they needed kids from Cleveland and Schenectady. They're trying to move into the area. But I'm thinking we got some Louisiana Cajun, right?
So here's what I would tell you. I don't know. You and I New Orleans is my favorite American city. What
a dream was covering the Ravens in the Super Bowl. It was awesome.
That was actually the first time I'd ever spent an extended period of time in New Orleans. Was Super Bowl 47.
And I would work every night till let's say 9, working on my pieces.
Yeah.
But then you could go everywhere, and if you're eating as one,
correct.
Every place you can find a seat at a bar and
100%.
eat as one. I eat everywhere I want to.
My wife and I went back for our 5th wedding anniversary. I went back. I had a buddy who was a WWE wrestler who convinced me to go down there for WrestleMania, and I've been back probably 8 times since the Super Bowl because it's become truly my favorite American city. I like eating cities. That's my.
Yeah.
I was at the beach last week. The beach is fine. Eating cities.
Yes.
That's where it's at. That's why I like Charleston.
And I agree with everything you say about sand.
Scott,
Scott, why isn't the beach field turf?
What? Why? It's 2024. Because if it was, I would absolutely change some of my thoughts overall about the beach.
I wear shoes.
I tried. The
and
sand just comes into the shoes.
My wife gives me a hard time. You can't avoid the sand. There will always be sand. It will follow
every
you
crevice
for the whole week.
By the way, we all go rinse off, only to then go back into our place, which is also covered in sand.
And when you take the shower underneath your feet.
Oh, grimy and gross. Then you try wearing. I have these New Balance Old Bay flip-flops that I like to wear. And I wore a little bit too much of them over the weekend. Now I got blisters all over my feet. It just sucks. The beach.
All right, here we go. These are the Cajun.
Yeah, Cajun Bites. Bayou Bites.
Bayou Bites.
Chrissy's Pickles. That's good.
That got a good kick.
That's really good. That's a good pickle. That's an 8.5.
Yeah. Strong.
Oh, boy. It keeps coming. It keeps coming.
Yeah.
Oh, I really like that. I like that a lot. All right, so is it just the Annapolis grouse? Are these available in any other?
I don't know.
There's a grouse out in Parkton.
Yeah,
right?
In Ruxton.
Yeah, there's that one, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah. I love growl. Robert Lang's growls.
Was it? Of course. Yeah. I the one out in Parkton, because I live in northern Baltimore County.
That's my go-to for snow days.
That makes sense. Lot. You want to be in the Hereford. You got to be in the Hereford zone.
I don't get all the way back to the growls, but I'm in that spot where, as I look out towards Mount Carmel Road, the exit
right off 83,
to my right, the old the bank and the drugstore are on my left. And that's where I do my reports.
There's a brand new Royal Farms now up there.
It's, the problem with Royal Farms is I like the gnat sound.
Yeah,
and Royal Farms, they crank
really does make it tough with the like the Maroon 5 playing in the background. It's always like, Maroon 5.
Scott Wycoff's not.
Right.
He says he is.
Why is he reporting live from the Mix 106 studios?
My wife says, she goes, well, like today I went to Annapolis, and she goes, because I was talking about Governor Moore, and like, why'd you go to Annapolis? I said, well, they want to. I go
the
to
idea
where,
is you're reporting,
like,
right?
The new, and she goes, well, how would anyone know? I said, because they know.
It's very difficult. That is and it's worse because there are a lot of employers that would tell you cannot go. You have to pretend like you're there.
Well,
you have to.
And the great thing about working at WBAL is they encourage you.
Yes, they actually want to do some reporting. What a thought.
Stories.
What a thought. Go out and do the reporting.
Be with the people and get the feel for what's going on.
I got some. One day you and I can tell some more stories about that where I was told very clearly, do not do that. Right. Do not do that. Wait, but aren't we trying to pass off that? Yes, but you're not going. Yeah. Wait, what?
We got to get you a sports car too.
Explain this again. I'm so confused. It's sort of like when they tell you you're going to broadcast the game from the TV monitor. You say
and the Blue Jays are still doing that in the road
for the radio,
and they might be one of the top revenue-producing teams in
because they
all
have an
of Major League Baseball.
An entire country to market to, entire. Adam Lowen was from Vancouver. And yet he told me that he was obsessed with the Blue Jays.
Right.
They ain't anywhere close to each other.
Right.
It'd be like a kid in Cleveland being a Seattle fan.
Right.
It makes no sense.
Should be a fan of the Banff Bears or something,
Banff Bears. What a pool. All right. Tell me how Navy football takes a step forward this season, Scott Wycoff.
I think with the new offensive coordinator, Cronin, coming from what he's done with the wing T, and it's amazing at Navy they no longer have slot backs. They're called snipes now. But they kind of do the same thing, but I really think this offense, though still based on the terminology of the triple option, but a wing T, if anyone's familiar with what Tubby Raymond used to do at Delaware and his coaching tree, I think that is going to make a difference because Brian Newberry has had one of the top defensive units in the American Athletic Conference each year. I think this is going to be his 7th year at the Naval Academy, and he's been able now to recruit 7 years of what he wants in a player, a little more length, a little more speed, and I think that's going to make a big difference. And, a quarterback steps up. Who knew that Malcolm Perry a few years ago is going to run for what?
Superstar.
3,000 yards or something, I mean, just amazing. So that's neat. And, it's really neat working, you said, with Scott Strassmeyer at the Naval Academy with all the coaches, the players. The interviews are unbelievable. I get to go out there once, twice a week, interview these.
Yeah, it's not a bad backdrop either.
It's amazing.
Yeah, right?
And it's great working with Pete Medhurst, Joe Miller. I mean, they're tied at the hip.
Mills.
I mean, and Keith Mills.
Yeah.
I mean, and just that the Naval Academy has the confidence in me to give me the opportunity, and WBAL has to broadcast Navy football. I mean, it's just. It's really one of the biggest things I've ever done in my career.
You'd have just never had this conversation. Was sports the path for you? Like, did you assume when you were young that like this is what I was going to do for the rest of my life?
Right out of college, went to Portland, Maine, worked a year in local radio. The hockey job opened up. We were the flagship station. They slid me in. I did the games up there for 4 seasons. The team was sold, moved to Providence. Joe Beninati and I worked together.
Yeah.
Joe was the young guy from Bowdoin College, and he was able to get the gig in Providence. And I came to Baltimore and D.C. and just started doing things, landed at WMAL in Washington.
The mall. Now,
filled in for Ken Beatrice.
The legend.
I got a phone call. They said Ken slipped on some ice and can't be here. So I was like, the guy who played Wally Pipp.
Wally Pipp, yeah.
Ken was Wally Pipp, and Lou Gehrig stepped in. Nice Lou Gehrig comparison.
I was going to say, but I feel like it didn't work out quite the same way in this circumstance.
I got my one shot
right?
here. And for people who aren't familiar, Ken was literally, he was sports talk radio before there was sports talk radio.
Yep.
So, and then, and the great opportunities had, the greatest thing about coming to Baltimore 22 years ago today, was the first day, is the stories that BAL has allowed me to tell. The feature stories, the people that I've been able to talk to, and all walks of life, and Baltimore, Maryland, through and through, and they're a station that gives you the opportunity to get the natural sound that makes the story rich. And I mean, I've spent days, let's say, at Pimlico, and people might say, "Oh, horse racing," but I'm telling the stories of these 8 guys who work at the starting gate.
Yeah, where did your love for horse racing? Was it always a thing for you? Did that come after you got?
As a kid, it was kind of an allure because growing up in
For
Cleveland.
those who know, Scott, it's not the rest of the world pays attention to Pimlico for 1 week.
Right.
Scott knows what's going on in Maryland horse racing every day of the year.
Because there's just so many stories, and to your question, it had the allure when I was a kid growing up in Cleveland Thistledown, but when you had to be 18 to get into the track then.
Okay.
And so I would literally tell my mom I'm going to Randall Park Mall, and I would go to the track, which was next door, and climb a tree and try to look in, see, what's going on in there. But when I came here, they said, hey, John Patty and needs some help. He and Chick Lang are doing the morning reports with Dave Durian from the Barnes. Get out there and go and help them out. I found stories everywhere.
Yeah.
And very few of them were about hardcore racing.
Mm-hmm.
They're about the people. Marylanders. It's a $2 billion a year industry in Maryland, horses. And these are people that shoe the horses, that clean out the stalls, that are the vets that drive all around northern Baltimore County and Harford County
Don't I know it.
all day long listening to the radio. Talk Show Man, this famous horse in Maryland, was named Talk Show Man because Michael Harrison, the vet, was a big fan of the Ron Smith show. And Ron called himself Talk Show Man.
Wild.
So he named his horse Talk Show Man. So that's where and it kept leading me. Horse racing has the owners that are and unlike a lot of the sports where the owners are kind of untouchable, they're very approachable in horse racing because it's usually their second thing. They've made their money doing something else, the widget king. But they run horses. And down to the person, like I said, that mucks the stall, that cleans out the stall. But they have a story to be told too. And it's non-conventional. It's not an every night thing like a ball players or an every Sunday thing like the football players or every Saturday like I do at Navy. But it's just the stories. And they've opened up a new library, the Maryland Horse Breeders Association in Reisterstown, in Old Town Reisterstown. And it's this beautiful old church with the white pillars right by the cow where you get the soft serve ice cream in Reisterstown. And I've been talking to them about giving them all the features so people can constantly go in and archive and listen and hear about these different people, hear about King Leatherberry or the horse named Ben's Cat or Talk Show Man or Michael Harrison, the vet who opened up a beer pharmacy on his property where he raises horses. I mean, just stories like that. And again,
I got some Ryan Fogelsong stories, but I don't think you can include those. I think some of those probably wouldn't be.
One year, there was no network broadcast of the Preakness. So the Maryland Jockey Club came to WBAL and our executive producer, Mike Welbrock, and said, can you produce a broadcast? ABC is not doing it this year. No one's picked it up, blah, blah, blah. So we produced the broadcast, and the analyst was Ryan.
Oh, man.
And Welbrock had to sit down with him and say, this is for real.
Right,
You gotta do this. I mean, he loved it. And then I'll always remember Ryan for, all his great racing here in Maryland. But when Chick Lang died, they spread Chick's ashes in the winner's circle at Pimlico. But right before they did that, they played Maryland, My Maryland, which was Chick's favorite song. They had Ryan Fogelsonger ride a horse around the track the wrong way, which I guess in horse racing is a way to honor some fallen friend or something. And Ryan rode the horse around the track at Pimlico the wrong way, around that infield that Chick Lang invented. And so, I'll always remember Ryan for that. Yes. And it's always neat hearing from him because you'll hear something, on Facebook that he's at a bar somewhere in Virginia where he's got a friend who's, the sound guy.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Oh, there were a few nights. I do have some Ryan Vogelsong stories, but again, I don't know if some of them would have made. I don't think they would have made WBAL. I don't think these were.
But with like a Ryan Vogelsong, if I ever interviewed him, it would be about being a jockey, but it would be so much more.
Oh, yeah.
You'd find out how he keeps his weight down.
Right.
How he learned, to get over his fear of horses growing up. Why he was drawn to horse racing and what he wants to do after it. How he gets over the fear of imagine. I mean, jockeys are like motorcycle riders with no helmets, with a motorcycle that's got its own brain.
Yes.
And for a jockey, you're going 35, 40 miles an hour, and you have no idea when you're coming off.
They 100%. They can.
No idea at all.
No doubt about it. Oh. Scott, I could do this. We got to do this again.
This is fun.
I'm really glad you stopped. This was really pleasant. Yeah. This was really pleasant.
And enjoy the pickles.
What can I plug for you? What can I?
Tomorrow morning.
Yes.
We do a half-hour news block from 5 a.m. until 5:30. Taylor Bennett and I.
Yep.
Tony Thornton does our traffic.
Love Tony.
Valerie Proctor does our sports. And we just give all the news kind of, for these early people. And we do news the rest of the morning, but we get it out there. So give us a holler if you're on your way into work early in the morning, and you might. I don't know. You might listen to something else. You might do something else. But in that nugget, you can kind of get kind of a snapshot of what's going on in Baltimore.
Yep.
And, and really, that's what affects us every day. What goes on in our town, where we live, what's going on in Hereford, what's going on throughout the city. So that's 5
a.m. on WBAL.
There you go. And I would have already been up since 1:18 a.m.
Yeah, you're ready to go. You're on your next day. We will preview the Home Run Derby with Mike Petriello from MLB, and still to come today, Vonta Leach helps us remember Jacoby Jones. That's still on the way as we continue on a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Frederick Keys baseball is back. With 30 more home games beginning on July 2nd, the Keys are excited to welcome you back to Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium. We want to see you there. Countless promotions will be on display every game, with it ranging from Tap House Tuesdays to Firework Fridays and everything in between. For more information or to buy tickets, call 301-815-9939 or visit frederickkeys.com today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with two sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
There he is, Agent 00 Chicken. Nothing can keep him from Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. Because right now, he can get a 3-piece world-famous chicken box for just $8 with a portion of each sale donated to a local charity. Plus, register to win world-famous chicken for a year. Come to Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. It's a real thriller, but it's only for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday, and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion, and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at oceocean.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program. Today's show also brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Sports and Social, as always, is the best place to watch all of the big events like, tonight and the Home Run Derby. On top of that, Live Casino Rewards members have the opportunity to earn discounts on cash and credit purchases at the casino. Join the Live Casino Rewards Club online or in person at Live today. See complete details, livecasinohotel.com. And as I mentioned, the Home Run Derby is tonight. Gunnar Henderson looking to come away victorious in an 8-player field. Of course, there'll be a traditional broadcast of the event on ESPN, but also an alternate broadcast will be airing on ESPN too. And this man's going to be a part of it. He's going to tell us a little bit more about what to expect tonight. He is Mike Petriello from MLB.com, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Mike, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you, as always, taking a couple of minutes for us.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Happy to be here.
Mike, knowing you, knowing data, statistics, knowing what these have been in the past, I assume that what we're in for tonight is maybe a little bit more about some of the data about these mammoth home runs that these guys are going to be hitting this evening.
I think yes and no. Obviously, This is an event that's very well set up for that kind of stuff, right? Because you're just crushing homers. But it's not that interesting or fun for me just to go out there and recite exit velocity and launch angle on every home run.
Fair enough.
Nobody wants that.
So
there were three. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So what else?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're going to use the data to kind of do a little bit of prediction, tell you what matters. We've got a whole bunch of interesting stuff about Pete Alonso in previous years and what is very, very different about him this year that I think is going to be interesting. And also, the visuals of the show are really what sets it apart from the main ESPN show because we've got these really cool 3D graphics that show you exactly where the ball is going to land. You'll see the distance pop up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think people are going to enjoy it.
All right, so if it's anything like the 3D graphic of Alex Verdugo in left field yesterday after he fell down and then tried to get back up, I am all in. In fact, if you guys just showed that for 3 hours tonight, I would watch it on repeat for the rest of my life, perhaps.
Yeah. I tried to see if we could get that for the kids shagging the balls in the outfield.
Oh, man, that would actually be awesome. Oh, that would be so great. Oh, I'd love that. Okay, so, Mike, I'm going to ask this dumb guy question, right? We know Gunnar Henderson is good at hitting home runs, but what makes someone good at the home run derby format specifically? Like, how do we? It's easy to say, hey, Pete Alonso's won a couple times, so, you'd probably pick him, right? Like, that would be the choice. But how do we translate this guy is a good home run hitter to this guy will be good in a home run derby?
That's a great question. And most importantly, to realize it's a little bit of a different format this year. So what was true in the past may not be 100% true this year. I guess we're going to find out. But the two things that I have found to be the most predictive of home run derby hitters when you look at what they've done in the regular season. Number one is how hard do you hit your home runs and how hard do you pull the ball in the air? And I get it. People will hear that first one and say, well, a home run's a home run. You don't get more runs because you hit it hard. And that's true in regular season game in Kansas City or whatever. But if you're trying to look at the guys who are most likely to hit the most home runs, what I really like looking at is how hard you hit those home runs and how hard you pull it in the air, because it gives you a little bit more of a margin for error. You know, we saw like Mookie Betts last year, and he pulled all his home runs, but doesn't hit it that hard, and he didn't really do well because you got to be like perfect for that to work. And if you've got a lot of excess exit velocity, it gives you a little more of a margin for error for maybe, mishitting one and still having it go out. And that's the kind of stuff I look at. So when you look at Gunnar Henderson, nobody in this field hits their pulled line drives and fly balls harder than he does. If you look at exit velocity and home runs, I believe he is third or fourth. So, you got to be in the top four in the first round to advance. And I'm feeling pretty confident that he is going to be one of those guys who advances.
Ooh, I like that. Hang on, I might be doing some for entertainment purpose only things over here right now. First round, Gunnar Henderson, minus 194. I'm doing it anyway. I'm playing it. You've talked me into it, Mike Petriello. You bring up the new format, right? Like, exactly how different will that look for people that are watching the home run derby this year?
I think it's going to be very different. So if you don't know the new rules, the first round, the first two rounds, really, you get either 40 pitches or 3 minutes. And I find that really interesting because, in the past you've had the head-to-head matchups, and you've had, I think Adley Rutschman last year is a great example. You've had guys who do really well in the first round but still lose because they happen to match up with the best guy, right? And now you're not going to have that in the first round. And you're also not going to necessarily have guys get to a certain point and stop because they know they beat their opponent, right? I'm leaving time on the clock because I've already out-hit you and now it doesn't matter. In pool play, in the first round, you need to go and spend your 3 minutes or 40 pitches to get as many home runs as you can. And I also think this is going to put a lot more pressure on the pitchers. You don't have unlimited time. You don't have unlimited pitches. You need to throw stuff that these guys can hit. And I think we've seen that in years past. Sometimes that's worked out great. And sometimes you have, Matt Chapman's cousin or high school coach or whoever it was who couldn't throw him a strike. And I always love looking at the pitchers because it's not an 8-man field of these things. It's a 16-man field. It's a partnership competition.
Okay. Am I right to say, Mike, that it feels like, and I always thought it was the guy that went second that had the advantage, so as we take out of that format, but does it feel like the guys that go earlier are almost at a disadvantage because they don't see the rhythm that other guys have? Am I crazy when I point that out, that it feels like once you watch one or two guys go, you get more of a sense of the rhythm of how quickly you need to be throwing pitches, how quickly you need to be swinging?
Yeah, I would say mostly yes, but not 100% yes. Okay. For one caveat, which I'll say in a minute. Yeah, Alec Boehm is going to go first. He's the 8th seed. He's hit the fewest home runs. He has no idea what else everybody's going to do. We've never seen this format before, so he doesn't really have a target number. He doesn't know if he needs to get to 12 or 15. He's just got to go out there. And obviously, the further you go, you get to the second to last guy, and then Gunnar's the last guy. He knows exactly what he needs to do, which is an advantage. But the minor caveat to that, I think, is you'll have a little bit less time to rest before the second round, should you advance. Whereas Alec Boehm, if he advances, will have plenty of time to rest because he'll be watching 7 other guys first. So keep an eye out for that.
I appreciate you passing that along. Mike Petriello is with us here on GCR. Mike, if I could just for a second, away from the Derby tonight, the Orioles really struggled. They limped to the finish line, save for Alex Verdugo falling on his face in the 9th inning yesterday. It's easy to say, hey, this is a team that could really use the All-Star break, and maybe is this a team that just sort of had a bad week, or a team who's has some more fundamental flaws that came to light that are still going to be real on the other side of the break and are going to have to be addressed via the trade deadline?
I mean, can it be both? Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. I don't think that this week taught us that they needed a starting pitcher, right? Yeah. Everybody has known that for quite some time. They needed a starting pitcher, probably a reliever. That's not news no matter what happened this week. I look at some other teams like the Dodgers who had an atrocious week. I think that is exposing some real flaws. I think the Yankees have some real flaws. And so do the Orioles. No team is perfect, but I picked them to win the World Series before the year. And I still feel they're the class of the American League, maybe not the whole majors because I think the Phillies are really good, but I think it's a well-timed break for them in the sense that the trade deadline is not that far away. It is 2 weeks from tomorrow, I think, or the next day, and they need a starting pitcher, and maybe two. And nothing that happened this week changes that for me.
And that's the thing. Like, I do think that like this thing where the offense sort of went silent, I think you can sort of crack that up and say, hey, that you get a break. The offense is going to be fine. We know the knowns there are too significant. There still look like there's going to be a Kobe Mayo influence at some point, and maybe the return of Jackson Holiday. I think I can be comfortable with the offense. But your point is the starting pitching. That's not new. Like, that's been obvious. Is there to you a particularly obvious answer for the Orioles and addressing starting pitching at the deadline?
I don't think there is. I know everyone's going to point to Garrett Crochet, right? And obviously he's having a really strong year, but we don't know that they'll trade him, or we don't know that he'll be available in the postseason because of the innings limits. That's the guy, but it might not happen. And I was with some baseball people here last night sort of having a roundtable about this, and the answer is, A, there's not that many good impact starters available, and B, the Orioles aren't even the contender with the biggest need for a starter. That would be the Dodgers, who barely have 3 starting pitchers healthy right now. So I do think they're going to get somebody, but it's not going to be Tarek Skubal, probably. I don't know if it'll be Crochet. Yeah. And I don't know if people will be that excited by like useful, helpful guys like Eric Fetty, or somebody like that, unless they finally get together with the Mariners and they make that hitter prospect for a young pitcher trade that everybody keeps dreaming on that just never ever seems to happen.
Yeah. Give me Logan Gilbert somehow, some way. But no, like I don't think the Mariners do that. But I don't know how they can keep living without being able to score runs. It's just a really weird bit that they keep trying to do. You bring up Fetty. That's always been the guy to me. A lot of like talk recently has been about the Blue Jays. And it's always interesting because I don't know what the tax would be to try to trade within the division. Like Chris Bassett absolutely looks like the type of guy the Orioles should go after.
Yeah, they've got a couple of guys, right? Bassett, Kikuchi, even maybe old friend Kevin Gossman, if the bridges haven't been burned there. But I follow the Blue Jays pretty closely because I do a lot of pregame and postgame work for them. And the biggest question there is not whether they're in or out, because it's pretty clear that they're out for the year and in to sell. The biggest question there is who is doing the selling, right? They've had the same front office there for almost a decade now, and there's a lot of thought that, because this has quote-unquote failed, that if they're going to start tearing it down, then that might require somebody else in the front office to do that. So there's a whole other, a lot of situations there. And Bassett is not a free agent after this year. Gosman is not a free agent after this year. Kikuchi is. I think Kikuchi would be a pretty interesting fit. And to your point about not trading into the division, I don't think that's as much of an issue as it used to be. I know for a very long time that was kind of a no-no, but I think the feelings on that have changed a little bit, where it's like, well, if I trade a competitor, this good guy, I'm at least taking their prospects away. And because so much of it's about the wild card now, not the division, it's not as important that you finish in first place. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. But Kikuchi seems like, and Bassett as well, a guy who could help the Dodgers, the Cardinals, the Orioles, a number of teams if they decide to do that.
Kikuchi's fascinating. Bassett, I just like that workhorse type, right? Like the guy that I can just count on, right? The bulldog. That just feels like exactly what the Orioles need to be. And I don't know that Fetty isn't that guy at this point, right, Mike? Like it's so hard to separate the Eric Fetty of the past from the Eric Fetty that came back from the KBO and found a new pitch and looks like he's really a guy.
Yeah, I think especially because he spent the bulk of his career, in that Mid-Atlantic area where you all saw lots of them with the Nationals, and he was just respectfully straight up bad. He was not a good pitcher. They let him go when they were a 100-loss team. And what I really, really like about him is that some of this season he's had was predictable. And what I mean is he came back from Korea and he was like, no, I changed the way I pitched. I went to not driveline, but another version of one of those. I added 2 new pitches. I have Logan Webb's splitter, and I learned another pitch. And it's like, yeah, that seems to me like a guy who was not getting the most out of himself. I bet he's going to be pretty good. That's exactly what's happened. So I am willing to completely throw away the first 6 years of his career. As far as I'm concerned, Eric Fetty is a rookie this year, and that's all I'm evaluating him on.
That's really interesting. All right, tonight on ESPN2 for the alternate broadcast of the Home Run Derby with our guy Kevin Brown as well, which we love. We'll look forward to that. And, of course, at Mike_Petriello on Twitter as how you can follow him. Mike, is there anything else we can plug for you, man?
No, thanks a lot. I should also point out, if you like watching Kevin and myself and StatCast starting this upcoming Sunday night, we, along with Trevor May, are going to be doing bringing back the alternate versions of Sunday Night Baseball. So 5 out of 6 weeks starting this upcoming Sunday, which is Dodgers Red Sox. And I know 5 of the games. Don't know the 6th game yet, but fingers crossed it's going to be that Orioles Astros game on August 25th. So keep an eye out for that also.
That would be great. Appreciate that. Mike, thanks so much, man. Really enjoyed this. We'd love to do it again real soon, all right?
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Mike Petriello, MLB.com. And, yeah, that's cool. The altcast will continue for Sunday Night Baseball. A lot better than that other altcast that they attempted to do for Sunday Night Baseball. A lot better than that. Appreciate Mike taking some time for us today ahead of the Home Run Derby tonight. News today, John Heyman reports that Corbin Burnes is expected to be the starting pitcher for the American League in the All-Star Game. And as we had talked a good bit before I went away about that possibility of getting 3 starts out of Corbin Burnes before the break, and then the Orioles decided not to do that, remember that was one of the caveats I kept giving is it important to Corbin Burnes to start the All-Star Game and to have the chance to start the All-Star Game? Because if it is, then I could see the Orioles deferring to him and saying, all right, man, we're not going to try to force you to start 3 times then between now and then. And, I get like there'd be a lot of people that say, hey, you need to be called harder in those situations. Just do what's best for the team. I hear you. But if it mattered to Corbin Burnes to have the chance to start in the All-Star Game, then I understand why the Orioles, and I don't even know that factored into their consideration, but it certainly seemed like it was going to have to be in play. And John Heyman reports that we know Paul Skeens obviously is starting for the National League. He reports that Corbin Burnes is expected to be the starter for the American League in the All-Star Game tomorrow night. We began today's show spending a lot of time talking about Jacoby Jones. And another friend of ours and someone who was with Jacoby obviously in 2 different places is now going to join us to spend a few more minutes sharing some memories and some reflections. And Vonta Leach, I can't imagine how difficult the last 24 hours have been for you, my friend, but I really appreciate you coming on with us today to take a couple minutes to talk about Jacoby and tell us a little bit more about your former teammate.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. The last 24 hours, like you said, has been tough ever since I heard the news. I'm on 2 different group chats with 2 different teams, obviously with the Ravens and also with the Texans. When the news came, we just trying to find out what really happened. Was it true? It was just a tough morning yesterday.
Vonta, can you take me back to the first? Do you remember the first time you ever interacted with Jacoby? The first conversation you ever had with him?
Yes, I remember my first time coming in contact with Jacoby was when I was in Houston, and then he got drafted in Houston. Was a kid that came from a little small school, and always wanting to play in the big time, always liked the big lights and the big stage. So Jacoby was always a funny guy, never a dull moment with him. Just nothing but great times.
You mentioned, so you end up in Baltimore. You're on the other side. As this unfolds, I've talked so much about what happened with Jacoby when he was still with the Texans in Baltimore in the playoffs that year, and he's talked about it a lot. What that did for him, and the player that he became, and how that drove him. How much of that did you see going into 2012? How hell bent he was to rewrite his story after that moment.
Well, I could tell you a story that, when we signed Jacoby, everybody knew what happened in the playoffs and stuff. And a lot of people in Houston, not necessarily, but a lot of fans blamed Jacoby for the loss and stuff. So that next year, we signed Jacoby, and Jacoby's first couple of days here, it won't go kind of right for him, and I told me, he said, hey, Vonta, go over there and talk to Jacoby, let him know how we do it here and what's going on. It took me one time to go pull him to the side, have a talk, and then the rest was history. Jacoby changed our whole special team as far as we was a threat on special team. We could score at any time we had the ball in the hand on special teams. Kobe can go the distance.
And on top of that, I don't think that anybody in Baltimore was expecting him to be as valuable of a receiver as he proved to be, right? Like, everybody knew Jacoby the returner, but the reputation was that he was kind of a disappointment as a wide receiver. The truth was, while maybe his numbers weren't, like, spectacular, he was exactly what the offense needed that year.
Correct. Correct. He was exactly what we needed, and I think he added another dimension and another spark to our offense. Jacoby always had big play skills. I think some of his time in Houston, he didn't get a lot of opportunities because some of the other guys, some of the opportunities that he got, he dropped the ball and stuff sometimes, but he made the best of his opportunity in Baltimore. And, he was a fan favorite, man. I'm telling you,
We're chatting with Vonta Leach today about the life and the legacy of Jacoby Jones. Vonta, when you say a fan favorite, you're underselling it, right?
Jacoby was the show, man. I'm telling you. No matter, I was just sitting here thinking, the last time we was all together for the championship game, and me and Jacoby had some appearances together. Man, Jacoby lit up the room. He's going to do his move. He's going to dance, He's going to do his dance. He's going to do his talking, Jacoby, everybody just loved Jacoby. Jacoby was Baltimore.
You know what always stuck me, and Vonta, I had the chance to get fairly close with Jacoby over the years. It never came off to me as Jacoby was, like, putting on a show. It always came off to me like, this is just who he is. He wants to be among people. He doesn't, like, He would take the check. Like, he was happy to take the check for somebody to come out. But then later that night, he would just be at another bar, like, doing the same thing for free. Like
that is correct. Jacoby was always, how I can say it, a person for the people, man. I'm telling you, like I said, if there was a dull moment, you knew Jacoby. One thing for sure, you were gonna have fun. You were gonna enjoy yourself. You're gonna have a good time.
His passion always spoke to me. Vonta, Reed and I were talking about it yesterday. We saw Jacoby a couple months ago. It was the last time that I saw Jacoby, and I was getting ready to leave this event that I was at, and he, like, literally forced me. Like, he grabbed me and was like, "No, we're going and sitting down and talk. We haven't talked in a long time." And his passion. Everybody knows Jacoby the entertainer, and I feel like sometimes it gets lost, like, how much he cared, how deeply he cared about trying to help young people, about trying to do the right thing. Like, we all know what a personality he was, but I think his passion to me was what, like, it drove well beyond just being an entertainer. Like, he really cared deeply about people.
Correct. Jacoby had football camps down there in Louisiana, back in his hometown. And Jacoby also came to my hometown and to my football camps. I mean, Jacoby was about kids, about helping people, Like I said, he was just about being around people and helping any way he can.
Boy, everything that we're talking about with Jacoby, I get, he's such a special person. I always, like, wonder, like, when people end up in certain places, like, it almost feels divine to me, Vonta, the way that it worked out with him, being here, how it happened in that playoff game that he became, like, it almost feels like it was some sort of divine intervention for Jacoby Jones. He always belonged in Baltimore, right? And it required that moment to get him here, to connect with his people, to find this, like, second home that he had during the course of his life.
That's kind of correct. Hate it happened the way he did in Houston for him being in Baltimore. But like I said, once he came to Baltimore, Jacoby, like, this was a home forever. He stayed here. He always been back here in the off season and during the season. Jacoby was going to be in Baltimore.
And he came back. He took coaching jobs, right, at Calvert Hall at Morgan State, just to have more time here, right? Like, just because this place was so special and that connection was so special. That personality, what did his personality do for your group in that run? We know what he did on the field. We all know the catch. Like, we all know what happened in Denver. We all know the returns. But what did the personality do for your unit, for your group? We've it's not that Joe didn't have a personality, but we know Joe's never been the larger-than-life, over-the-top type of guy. What did his personality do for your unit and the life that you guys found during the course of that season to rewrite history and have such a historic playoff run?
Well, just his personality, like I said, lit up the room. His personality was affectionate. It rubbed to other teammates, other players, not taking everything so seriously. But when it came to a job, we did our job. But we also knew how to do our job, but also have fun, if that makes sense. There was a time and a place for everything, and so we knew how to compartmentalize that and do that.
What went through your mind? Let's go back to Denver, right? Like go back to that moment. And I know that you didn't win the game in that moment, but take me through what went through your mind and what you knew, because I'm sure in that moment you knew, oh my gosh, this is gonna live forever. He really just did that.
Yeah, I was like, man, I was sitting on the bench. It's late in the game. I was like, holy shit, did we really just do that? Did we really just score? Oh my God, we got a chance. We may have a chance. I mean, literally, I was like, wow, it was amazing. And then, like you said, it's probably one of the top three, if not top, one of the top 3-4 plays in the Ravens history. And Jacoby got two of them: Super Bowl return to 108 and the touchdown. Jacoby going to always be remembered here in Baltimore and everything.
What about, and look, again, he in that offseason, I've talked about this a lot, he became like a viable celebrity between, his heroics and then obviously doing Dancing with the Stars, right? Like, he was a celebrity. And yet, to me, Vonta, he didn't change. You would say, because he was always, the larger-than-life guy, right? But, I would ask him about doing an event or doing it. He was nothing was like, no, I'm Jacoby Jones now. You stay away from me, you peasant. He was still the exact same guy to me after that.
Yeah, Jacoby still stayed the same, even though he was on Dancing with the Stars and stuff. Jacoby was always, like I said, he loved the light. He was a star, but he was a man for the people. And they always just hang around normal people, everyday people that watch the games that he can relate to and stuff, man.
Man, there are so few. There are so few. They just don't make humans like that, dude. They just don't make guys that are like that, man. Vonta, I don't know what else there is to say. I love you, brother. And I know you're hurting, and I know so many people are hurting today, and I know it's not easy to do. And to be vulnerable and talk about someone that you love like this, and no one, not just Jacoby, but no one we should be losing at 40 years old. That's unfathomable. I appreciate you and love you, man, and thank you for spending time with us this morning. And we'll be in touch, and really appreciate you doing this.
All right, appreciate it, man. I want everybody to make sure they keep his mama, prayers, Miss Emily, and also his son Jacoby Jr., man. Keep that family in prayers, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Vonta. It's Vonta
Thank
Leach.
you.
Of course, Ravens Super Bowl 47 champion and a teammate with Jacoby in both Baltimore and in Houston. I don't know if I talked about that when we were talking in the first segment, but that really, it blew me away. And my I don't know if you want to call it a eulogy. My reflection on Jacoby Jones is up at the pressboxonline.com. Jacoby did not – it would have been so easy for Jacoby to just be like, nah, I'm in a different stratosphere now, man. Sorry. It's the way it goes. So I'm a star now. He had Hollywood representation. He had – I just said, the next year at the Super Bowl, he was doing a media blitz that had him, everywhere. Entertainment Tonight, stuff like that. But he never did that. He never did. We asked him, you come out and do Jamil's show? Yeah, I'll be there. Can we do this coat drive? Yeah, I'm with it. Jacoby Jones, who was at the height of his stardom. And it spoke to him as a person. And when we talked about he never forgot where he came from. He never forgot, that it was dark. We texted a few times after I had him on the show the first time when the Ravens signed him and we did the jugs machine thing. We texted a few times. even leading into the season. And he was so interesting. We joke about it, like, Vonta has a draw too, obviously, but there would be times he'd be talking to Jacoby and you didn't fully understand exactly what he was saying. Because the draw, the Louisiana, was so thick. But yet the way that he was saying it could almost convey everything. Like, within just his inflection. I wish I would have had Jacoby Jones teach inflection classes. The number of times I'll be working with like young broadcasters about inflection, the same way that I've done it with Griffin, but people had to do it with me. Like, let's not pretend like I had. This is not I'm the king of inflection. I had to have. Oh my God, I wish I could remember. Steve Dreppert asked me to record a commercial for him when I was 22 years old for BaltimoreAtHome.com. He walked in, he said, "You're doing a commercial for me," and I was like, "All right." And it was for BaltimoreAtHome.com. And the line, I famously, because it was one of the most important inflection lessons I ever got, like famously it was, "It's my Baltimore. It's my homepage." And I think I did it 17 times. 2 lines. 2 lines. With him sitting there saying, do you want to be a broadcaster or not? Like, inflection. Jacoby had like the most natural inflection that I've ever heard in my entire life. The range on that man, that even if you didn't understand exactly the words that he was saying, you knew exactly what he was saying somehow because of his inflection. The number of times, I don't know why I've heard it, because it was never about me asking him to do an event because he always said yes. But the number of times I heard him say nope, no, and I can't even mimic it because it was so nope. I wish I could do it. I can't. It kept replaying in my head last night. Like, I really did. Like, just shaking his head. Nope. Oh, I love Jacoby, man. I love Jacoby. It is really still hard for me to grasp. It is really still very, very difficult. And I know it's been difficult for a lot of guys. I think Tori was a little emotional last night on Twitter, kind of almost taking it out on some people. By the way, it wasn't us. We did not reach to Tori. We did ask people that know Tori if he wanted to, but we did not reach Tori, and that's always a difficult thing. Like, I know Tori, like, you get emotional and you take it out on people, and like Tori's just really impacted by the fact that Jacoby died. Like, that's what's going on there, and I understand it. And I understand a lot of guys that are just you don't lose someone at 40 years old and you're just able to be at peace with it like the next day. You don't lose a friend at the age of 40 and you just say, "Well, he had a great life." No, he was stolen from us midway through his life. Thank you to Vonta Leach. Appreciate that. All right, we are running very late today. There's so many things we didn't cover. We didn't talk about Wimbledon. Carlos Alcaraz. That was emphatic, obviously. Although when he yacked up 40 love serving for the match in the third set, I was like, "Oh boy, like this could get interesting." So it actually almost maybe says more about him than after. Like, that is a historic meltdown. He hadn't been broken all match. He's serving for the match. He's up 40 love, yaks it up, and you're back on serve in the third, and you're just like, "Oh boy." Like, I don't know that Djokovic has 5 sets in him, but it's Novak Djokovic we're talking about. Like, it's possible. So the fact that he was able to bounce back so quickly and win that in the tiebreak, where you almost never beat Novak Djokovic in tiebreaks. Look, that now has definitively stated Carlos Alcaraz as being the best player in the world. There was just a bit of a hiccup there. Like, we thought that the U.S. Open a couple years ago was the anointing of Carlos Alcaraz, and then he couldn't really follow it up until he beat Djokovic at Wimbledon last year. But then even after that, right, like, Djokovic, you looked up and somehow Novak Djokovic had won more slams than Carlos Alcaraz after we had declared Carlos Alcaraz to be the best player in the world. And then Jannik Sinner threw his name in the hat, became the number 1 player in the world, won the Australian Open. Alcaraz went out in the quarterfinals. You're like, man, what's going on here? But backing up a French Open win with a dominant run at Wimbledon, like, it's reasserted. He is definitively the best player in the world. Can Djokovic still win a slam? Like, it couldn't have broken much better for him for this one. The fact that he didn't have to play a quarterfinal match and got Musetti in the semifinals, to take nothing away from Musetti, who had an amazing run and might be stating himself to be a factor in the coming years. But, like, that he was able to avoid Sinner and was able to avoid Alcaraz until the final and Medvedev and all of the other best players in the world. He didn't have to play any of them. It could not have set up better. This was the best chance that he was going to have. Does that mean he can't win another one? No. The knee obviously was an issue, and we'll see how that holds up moving forward, but he's 37. Like, it doesn't seem like the knee's going to get better, is the time adds to it. This was probably his best, Greg Rosenthal said it away. This was the one, and it could not have broken any better for him. My God, it broke so well for him. And yet, just wasn't able to do it. Barbara Krejcikova is about the most random. The only thing more random than Barbara Krejcikova winning this year's Wimbledon was the last time Barbara Krejcikova won a Grand Slam, which was the French Open a couple years ago, when she was like a doubles player, just a random doubles player that won a slam. She had totally fallen off, was under 500 for the year.
Jeez.
Bizarre. And heart breaks for Jasmine Paolini, who you just look at and say, dude, if you were 2 inches taller, if you were 3 inches taller, she would be, I'm not even saying tall, she's like 5'4". If she could just be 5'6", 5'7", she would be dominant. She doesn't have to, Krejcikova, I think, is 5'10". She doesn't have to be 5'10", 6 foot. Just, it's that she's this good at 5'4" is nuts. But to lose back-to-back slam finals, it's heartbreaking for her. And she's a lot of fun, man, so that was a bummer. And Musetti's fun, too. Musetti's a lot of fun. He's going to be a story for some time. Soccer. Oh, you owe me $20.
I didn't.
I don't think you ever paid. Double check, but I don't think you paid. I think you and somebody else, Proctor maybe, didn't pay. Yeah. Hail to España. Hail victory.
They call him Spanish Glenn as well.
Williams on the warpath. Big Spain guy the last couple of weeks. My son and I became big Spain guy. He couldn't figure out why we're rooting for Spain. He's like, Dad, I thought you rooted for Italy. I'm like, yes, boy, but they're out. Don't have to worry about it now. We can root guilt-free for Spain the whole way. And, man, we were watching I made my wife drive back from the beach yesterday so we could watch in the car. My son and I are losing our minds. Like, that was a hell of a final, obviously. The thing last night, it's just everything related to CONCACAF and CONMEBOL is just so embarrassing. Like, it's so embarrassing. And there are bigger problems than that. Like, how is it, like, you saw there were tens of thousands of Colombian fans that had descended upon Miami. How are you not more prepared? I don't know. That was ugly and embarrassing and brutal. And Fox obviously did just an awful job of their coverage of. I mean, it's so bad, so bad. But then, like, the way that they were just gaslighting, like nothing. A little bit of a late start tonight. Hey, everybody's having a good time. It was just wretched. And then it's like you don't even get like the moment that you want out of this, which is like another Messi celebration, because then he goes out and then he's crying on the sideline, and so. Good for Argentina and Di Maria in particular. That's what a story. But it's just a shame the way that it worked out. They didn't even have Leo Messi on the field, like celebrating. It was just everything about it was weird last night. But very deserving. And the run for Colombia was incredible. Comes up a bit short. Did I see the Spanish coach said that he would be interested in being the U.S. coach? Did I see that yesterday? That like he would listen if they called or something like that. Jesse Marsh doesn't want to listen.
No, yeah, he's mad in America.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp apparently is interested, so there's that. But I mean, we're just gonna hate him in a couple of years. That's the way that this will go. I've told you guys that a million times. But yeah, Spain and Argentina victorious this weekend, the Euro and the Copa. Is there anything else in the weekend that we needed to cover?
Probably.
Probably, yeah. It's already 12:40. Fine. Let's go ahead and do a tidbit.
You ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, what you got?
All right, I will try to make it quick. Let's. So did you see? Because I know you'd love this one. I don't know if you saw it last week. Michael Kopech threw an immaculate inning. For the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, I did not see that.
And he became the first White Sox pitcher.
Believe it or not, I wasn't paying close attention to the Chicago White Sox.
Well, you should be because we're half the roster is about to be Orioles.
True.
So, Michael Kopech, the first White Sox pitcher to record an immaculate inning in over 100 years. It was last done August 22nd, 1923.
Was it by a dean?
It was by the great Sloppy Thurston.
Oh, Sloppy! Why did we never do this? Can we please make that a priority moving forward?
Yeah, we can work on that. Sloppy Thurston, the last White Sox to do that. Rhys Hines has been just absolutely unbelievable for the Reds. First MLB player ever
that's nuts.
to have 8 extra base hits in his first 6 career games. Those are just the two big tidbit highlights I wanted to point out. And then I'll do a Jacoby Jones one. 9 return touchdowns in his career. He is tied for the 5th most return touchdowns since 2007 when he came into the league. There are 4 guys with more return touchdowns.
Since 2007 specifically. Well, Devin Hester, obviously.
Yes, Devin Hester. 14 of his, 20 returns have come since 2007.
Cordero Patterson.
Cordero Patterson is tied with Jacoby, only 9.
Only 9, you say?
Because he came after 07.
Obviously, Dion was after that. How about? My God, Brian Mitchell was before those years. Eric Metcalf was before that. God, who? Oh, Josh Cribbs.
Josh Cribbs only 9.
Was I put him on the list?
No. Well, because I wanted the guys all before him. We can make it. We can make it 9. There are. There's only one other guy that has 9. So if you want to try, if you guess him.
No, I don't.
The 3 others that they each had 10 returns since 07. They're all DBs.
Sproles?
Darren Sproles had 9.
Okay.
So they're
all DBs.
He runs out the top 9 there.
Wait, this is just kick and punt. This does not include interceptions?
No, it does not include interceptions.
They're all DBs. Leotis McKelvin?
No. Oh, so maybe I did not make it.
Oh, you son of a bitch!
Hold on.
I can't wait to find out.
I know. See if I can get it here.
Yeah.
Oh shoot. Okay, maybe it's just all right. Then we're just doing returns period.
So this includes interceptions and fumbles. Well, this is not nearly as interesting a list. Since 2007.
Yeah, but I mean, there's 3 good DBs there.
3 good ones. Charles Woodson.
Charles Woodson on the list. 10.
Yeah. Who else is on this list? This is 2000. I mean, there's no way there's still enough in there for Ed, right?
No, not enough in there for Ed. Ed had in his 13 in his career.
Yeah.
Which would put him top 5.
Yes, but unfortunately many of them before 2007. I'm not even sure that I know who else has interception returns for touchdowns.
He had he played as recently as 2022. He didn't play much though.
It's 2022.
You're not gonna remember the team. He was with. He started with the St. Louis Rams.
Oh, Aqib Talib.
Well, that's not who this is, but yes, Aqib Talib is on the list.
Well, who was he with?
Talib started. Was he always with New England, or he started in?
No.
Oakland?
Where was Aqib Talib?
Was he in
now that Aqib Talib came to mind. He was with the Rams. I thought he was with the Rams.
Oh, with the L.A. Rams. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. He ended his career with the L.A. Rams. This fella
started his career.
Started his career with the St. Louis Rams.
Started his career with the St. Louis Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Started his career with the St. Louis Rams.
Then went to the New York Giants for 4 years.
Went to the Giants for 4 years.
Then the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, not Amukamara. Jenkins.
Yes,
Jenkins.
Janoris Jenkins.
Okay.
Jenkins. They're your top return guy.
All right, very good, very good. Now let's get tubular.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, here's what's coming up totally tubular-wise this evening. The Home Run Derby. Yes. That's it. That's the list of things. Tonight on ESPN, 8 o'clock, and the alternate broadcast, as we talked about on ESPN2. Right now, the Team USA basketball is playing Australia.
That's right.
I do not care about the Team USA basketball exhibitions. They are not interesting to me, unless they lose. Still probably not all that interesting to me.
Better win.
I don't know. Summer League. Grizzlies, Cam Spencer, 8 o'clock tonight on ESPN.
Young's on the Nuggets.
That's right, and he's been playing. He's looked kind of good. Summer League all evening on ESPNU and NBA TV, and the USA Network for WWE Monday Night Raw. Anything non-sports?
Deron Holmes tore his Achilles in the Nuggets first.
Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah,
that's a bummer.
The Bachelorette at 8. I don't know how he did it. The premiere was last week, but Caleb Smith, who used to play
at Towson. Yeah,
Towson
he's on the
receiver.
Bachelor.
Yeah,
right.
He's on the roster this season.
All right.
That's on ABC. Anthony Anderson is guest hosting Jimmy
I was
Kimmel.
going to say, can he come on? He probably can't come on until after he gets eliminated, right?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. So we'll figure it out. The Republican National Convention is this week, so there'll be coverage like at 10 on all the major networks. A big noted Orioles fan, Natalie Portman, will be on Jimmy Fallon.
Lady in the Lake is coming out, obviously. Yes. So, yes, she was at the game on Saturday, and they're getting ready for Lady in the Lake, which was written by Laura Lippman. Not the show, but the book.
The book.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. And then the season 6 finale of All American on CW.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks today to, thanks to Vonta Leach. Thanks to Ben McDonald. Thanks to Mike Petriello. Thanks to Sydni Black. Thanks to Scott Wycoff for stopping by. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the...
Oh, my God.
You know he's going to perform it at the All-Star game tomorrow? I'm really excited about that.
He's been incredible, too, this season. He's batting like 400.
It's nuts. I'm so excited for his performance. I wouldn't watch the All-Star game. You might get me to tune in for that. I love that. Tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow on the program, I said our buddy Jim Henneman, the great Jim Henneman, is going to stop by and hang out with us in the studio. I love that guy. Saw him at Jamie Costello's retirement a couple weeks ago, and we haven't done that enough. So Jim Henneman's coming in studio tomorrow, and I'm excited about that. Jessica Stevens, Ellicott City native, who is going to the Olympics in trampoline.
Sounds fun.
Which is, yes, a thing. That's real. You can do that. You can go to the Olympics for trampoline. We're going to talk to her about that tomorrow and Stuff and Things.
Yes,
Stuff and Things. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County. Glory Days Grill, Guilford Hall Brewery. Royal Farms, the Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, the MSAA. That's a very different thing. I think I've done that before. The Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com, the Frederick Keys, and Easy Pass. Thanks to Griffin. At Griffin_Bass. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Go Gunnar Henderson.
Yes, go Gunnar Henderson.
Duke sucks.